This is a Livyatan, and this is me. Good times. I installed 53 aquatic creature mods, some useful and some degenerates, onto a map called Atlantis. From several brand new ocean biomes to air bubbles that are few and far between, I have 100 days to conquer all 8 underwater caves, collect every single artifact, and use them to take down all 5 bosses. So without further ado, I present to you me being waterboarded for 100 days. Not sponsored by Fiji Water. On day 1, I spawned in.
Here we go again.
Literally under the sea. And after picking some berries next to this plant with a world record tongue, I noticed that I'm inside an air bubble right now. But there's only starter stuff here, and we need to get geared up and make some scuba gear to enter the rest of the map, which is covered in Fiji water. So I did the normal ARK stuff and fought this tree to the death with my bare hands. Picked up an infinity stone, got my lunch money stolen by a bird. Dude! Leveled up a bit, and crafted a pickaxe, which I then used to physically assault another tree, and then I threw a haymaker at this peasant for good measure.
Each time when I come here, I am abused.
And now I just needed flint to make a hatchet. So I started chopping up this big crystallized looking rock, but it gave me oil. Oh, that's actually kind of good. But where are the normal rocks? I didn't see any normal rocks, but there was a coral reef here. And I'm pretty sure coral reefs are like environmentally protected because they're going extinct or something like that. But it gave me some flint. So good times. Anyways, I have a hatchet now, and I made some clothing because skinny dipping with megalodons is not good times. I also found some crystal here, which is pretty nice, but I need a metal pickaxe to really get any. So I checked my engrams, and inside I found a stone knife, which is good for harvesting aquatic fauna. And I found this coral stove, which is invisible for some reason. But basically, it's like a campfire that works underwater. I've seen one of these a few times. Anyways, it was time to cook up a plan. And the first step was to tame something to farm narcotics for taming fish. And then hopefully we can get out of this air bubble starting zone. So after cowering in fear behind this coral reef because I saw a degenerate, I found a baby ninja turtle and this giant lizard. You're a lizard, Harry. Ow, bro, what did I do to you? On top of these ruins, I found an explorer note, which is amazing because they give a ton of experience. Except I got scammed and I didn't get any levels. At this point, I was getting thirsty, so I headed over to my backyard to chug the ocean. And, well, the ocean was pretty intimidating. I saw a seahorse, which is pretty cool. And, whatever those things are, the ones committing gang violence against that poor sea turtle. And I found this, Lepidote. I'm not gonna pretend that I know what that is, but it can be passive tame. I don't have any scuba gear yet though, and I don't want to die today, so I decided to go where I can actually breathe. So on day 2, I started exploring this sunken world. And it wasn't long before I found a beautiful family of parasaurs. But I was getting hungry, and I also have no method of taming anything. This rare mushroom did fix the hunger problem, but it also caused me to join the dark side for 30 seconds. So with a full stomach and some mild thalassophobia, it was time to execute my plan. And step 1 was to grind some materials. And now all that was left for me to make a bola was hide. And I just so happened to find some.
Each time when I come here,
I knew what I must do. Cut that part out. First try. Anyways, I used my entire life savings to craft a stone knife, 3 bolas, and a spyglass. I also put some raw meat on my hotbar and ate 3 entire uncooked steaks all in one bite. I should probably make a campfire or something. So after decimating another heathen, I came across 2 poor orphans, all alone in the wild. I can't believe their mother would just abandon them like this. So out of the goodness of my heart, I took them in and I humbly raised them as my own. And while waiting on Perry the orphan parasaur and his unnamed orphan brother to become full-grown men, I tested the stone knife on some bushes and it gave me some seeds, but not the normal ones. Curl bean, angleberry, crab nut spine fruit. Well, that's new. I spent the rest of day 2 exploring a bit, splitting the meat stacks to spoil, and slaying a couple more heathens. But then from the top of these ruins, I looked down. What? Okay, something is clearly not right. Are you the god of lizard? Okay, so I don't know what happened, but I fixed it. And on day 3, after some waiting around, Perry the orphan parasaur was a full-grown orphan man. That's right, it was Perry's birthday. But you know what's a lot cooler than birthdays? Anniversaries. Because right now, there's 5 million monthly active players, all getting a bunch of free stuff and a whole lot of new content in Raid Shadow Legends. I've said it before and I'll say it again. If you haven't heard of Raid by now, it's gotta be your first time on the internet. But don't worry, there's never been a better time to start. First of all, they're giving out a free Void Legendary. Where was this when I started? But on top of that, the game has completely changed. From quality of life updates like background multi-battles, where your champions can grind for you while you're doing something completely different in the game, to playing on PC and having multiple accounts. Progression has never been easier. And if you download Raid today using the link in the description below or my QR code on screen, you'll immediately get a huge anniversary starter pack with Zargala. She's from the Orcs faction, and she just so happens to be the partner champion for the one and only Void Legendary Supreme Gallic, who you can get after downloading with my link and using the special anniversary promo code Supreme6. But somehow it doesn't end there, because if you use the promo code Monkey King, you'll get the legendary Sun Wukong. Only one of the 2 codes, Supreme6 and Monkey King, can be used though, so pick the one you like best. Oh, and by the way, if you log in for 7 different days, you'll get a 4th limited edition legendary champ, Alice the Wanderer. And once your account is absolutely stacked, come find my clan under the name Juztify's Jungle. Everyone is welcome to join. So don't forget to download Raid using the link in the description or the QR code on screen. And thank you to Raid for sponsoring this video. So I unlocked and made him a saddle, placed it on his spinal cord, and clocked in for his first shift on the berry grind. And thanks to Perry's generous narco berry donation, I could now craft a mortar and pestle, a foundation, and a campfire. And after making my way back over to Lizard City and finding a decent spot on top of this ruin, I started cooking up some steak because eating raw meat is kind of disgusting. I also cooked up some narcotics in the mortar and pestle. A lot of narcotics, which I used to lace some arrows with NyQuil. And now with 37 trank arrows in my pocket, I set out to find my first victim. I wanted a pteranodon because I heard there's scuba gear in the supply drops up top, but then I found this red/pink looking supply drop thing, and yeah, apparently the scuba gear I was just talking about, well, it's right here. Oh, free air. And after going up and then dropping back down, I found a pteranodon, but I also found a yellow beam coming from the heavens. So I headed over to investigate. But when I arrived, there was no supply drop. And I didn't even get abducted by aquatic aliens. Nothing was happening. And then it just disappeared. Okay. Anyways, I went back to tame that PT from earlier, but then I saw this monstrosity in the water. Whoa, what is that? There were also some of the lizards in here too, and they seem to be amazing swimmers. Oh, so I'm supposed to tame you to go into the water. That sounded like a pretty good plan. But first, I decided to brainwash a pteranodon into being my friend and maybe look for some more scuba gear. He was only level 10, so I went to tame the other guy when this happened. Oh. That dude almost just fell on my face. But after showcasing my professional bola skills against this winged specimen, he finally decided to land, and I sent his consciousness to the Shadow Realm, level 60. And now, we wait. About 5 seconds later, I got assaulted by the leader of the Thieves Guild, but it wasn't long before Terabyte and Terrence were tamed, and it was time to head home. Hey, how's it going, dude? Terry was a bit, mentally challenged. You do know you have wings, right? But after some flight training, we made it back to my humble abode, and that is when I realized I was too low of a level to make a pteranodon saddle. Yeah, that was kind of pointless. So I decided to just tame a giant lizard and go ahead and enter the water. But first, I wanted to make a bet. So after Perry smited another degenerate, I then accidentally tamed this guy. Wait, what? No, I don't like you, bro. And now I'm apparently obligated to take care of my mortal enemy. Just stay out of the way, alright? Anyways, I farmed some thatch, some wood, and some fiber to make a bed. I said my goodbyes to Terabyte and his mentally challenged brother named Terrence. And I set out to tame a lizard and explore this underwater world. This green lizard man was only level 40, but over by the water wall, I found a level 90 female. She's pink. I don't actually know how to tame these guys, but I'm just gonna assume that you knock them out. Ah! How are you still conscious? So I didn't knock out a lizard and now I'm being harassed by a bird. Leave me alone, bro. But then I entered the water. Wait, is that her over there? Apparently the lizard that I was trying to knock out retreated into the ocean to go beef with a shark and his ex-wife. Well, okay then. I'm not even sure if knocking them out is how you are supposed to tame them. So I headed back to base to repair my bow and come up with a better plan. I had to make some more arrows because I used them all. And then I headed out on Perry, where I found this interesting looking supply drop that had some hide boots inside. I placed them on my feet. It also had 60 wool, which was sheared directly from an aquatic sheep. Anyways, I wasn't sure about the lizard, but I was gonna try and tame a fish that was close to the wall. But then on day 5, after passing the giant statue of a lizard god and looting another scuba tank, I realized, oh, I'm gonna die. I made a run for it, and I even tried using the scuba as insulation, but unfortunately, I died that day. Good times. Luckily, my life is like a video game, and I respawned in my bedroom. It was somehow negative 13 degrees in my living room. I still be cold. And even after starting a forest fire, I perished. I had to wait a few minutes to revitalize, but luckily, I no longer had frostbite. Terrence? I need you to hide a body. Wait, bro, what happened to my underwear? Terrence, I swear, if you did this to me... Anyways, I explored a bit more, exterminating the useless members of our society for levels along the way. And across the bubble, I found this. What is that? Protoceratops. Looks like a Pokemon or something. The Protoceratops was a passive tame. I tamed him. Seriously? That took like 20 minutes. But the creatures on this map have their own custom dossier, and that's actually really cool. Mainly because it counts as an explorer note, so I can now make a Pteranodon saddle. I don't have enough hide to make one for this guy though. So I whistled this awkward looking fella to follow me across the universe, and I know that the pathfinding on this game, it's pretty bad, okay? I'm aware of this. And getting things unstuck is like a daily routine at this point. But dude, this man right here, his stupidity has transcended reality. So basically, I was walking, okay? I needed some water to cure my thirst. So I casually walked straight into the ocean. And while I was here, I took the opportunity to waterboard a freeloader and then send him to the Shadow Realm. Goodbye. And now that my thirst was quenched and a brand new scuba tank was looted from this supply drop, I headed back to get this single-digit IQ level specimen unstuck from a rock. Are you stupid? There's a wall. There's still a wall there, buddy. There's literally no helping this guy. He's beyond saving. So I named him Gregory. I then went to the store. I'm not coming back. That was disappointing, to say the least. But I can now make a Pteranodon saddle. I just needed some hide and, more importantly, some chitin. So I donated death to a few civilians. And I came across Gregory's equally low IQ stepmom. She has 2 children, and I am looking to adopt. So I went through the full official process of fostering a child, and, well, She was literally just running into a wall that entire time. Definitely related to Gregory. Unfortunately, one of my foster children got away, but luckily, we still have this guy, who I named Gregory Jr. Also, these birds are making me lose my will to exist. Free hide, though. I left this other guy strung up dead at my base as a warning. Terrence, did you do that? I'm really proud of you, son. You're still staying in the outhouse, though. I can never forgive what you've done. And thanks to the birds being absolute menaces, I now had all the hide that I needed for a saddle. But I still needed some chitin. And on day 7, I was getting thirsty. So I ate 66 blueberries in one bite and then chugged this waterfall to quench my insatiable thirst. And the only creature that I've seen in this bubble the entire time that gives a decent amount of keratin is this turtle-like civilian. So I forced Perry, the orphan parasaur, to fight their entire extended family to the death. And then after scaling a very steep cliff, and exploring the heights of our underwater oasis. Wow, there's nothing up here. I returned back to base. I still needed a bit more keratin, but to my surprise, Gregory Jr. was now a full-grown Pokemon. Good Greg. He's actually really fast, and I'm not exactly sure what his purpose in life is, but when he chops down a tree using his face, well, he didn't get any wood. Spine fruit curl bean. Wait, this curl bean. It looks vaguely familiar. I think I've seen everything in this little bubble at this point, and while I do want one of those lizard dudes pretty bad, I kind of wasted too much time, and I'm supposed to be taking down all 3 bosses by day 100. So I think I'm just gonna go for a fish. So after cooking up some metal in my state-of-the-art refining forge, crafting a smithy, upgrading to the metal age, and clocking in for another 9 to 5. I crafted a hatchet and a crossbow. And I also found this in my kitchen cabinet. Do not eat. About as horrid as spoiled meat. Sounds tasty. So I fed it to Terrence to test this bold claim. He ate the whole thing in one bite. Anyways, I was about ready to become one with the fishes. Yes, I did just say fishes. So I split like 60 raw meat stacks to spoil, took Sir Gregory Jr. out to extort some berries from the local bush population, and queued up some more narcotics. And now, it was time. This ain't my first rodeo, but I do have mild thalassophobia. As I approached the portal into the underwater world, I saw a lepidote and a megalodon in the distance. Gregory was actually not bad of a swimmer, and he has some pretty impressive lungs as well. I do not. Anyways, I remembered these guys being a passive tame from earlier. Hey, get back here, young man. The lepidotes would not eat berries, but one piece of raw meat, and he was instantly tamed. By the way, I have no idea if I'm pronouncing that right. I'm probably not, so yeah. I was expecting the tame to take a lot longer, but I was also expecting to be able to ride the dude. What, bro, they're like bigger than Gregory. Why can't I ride you? So I decided to name my new lepidotes Y, because I don't understand why he exists. I definitely can't explore the ocean on Sir Gregory though, as he would simply perish. These videos take a really long time to make, so if you're enjoying it and or if you're a Carbon Immies, please consider subscribing. I read every single comment, even the ones that aren't in English. So let me know in the comments below if you prefer vanilla challenges or if you like the more modded stuff that I've been doing recently. Also, Evolved or Ascended. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And there wasn't really anything else here, so I decided to craft some more trank arrows and go for this megalodon. He was at the top of the water, meaning if I tried to run back into the bubble, well, I'm gonna fall and break my kneecaps. But luckily, he was distracted on Y's mother-in-law, and I took the opportunity to launch like 20 sleep-laced arrows into his dorsal fin, and it was going pretty great. Until this happened. Okay, please go to sleep. The key to outmaneuvering megalodons in this game is to go up or down because they swim slower vertically than they do horizontally. And as you can see, it works pretty well. I placed like 30 pieces of raw moss chop inside his unconscious esophagus, and I started heading back to base to make him a saddle. Oh, a trilobite. I can make a saddle for Terabyte now. Well, at least I thought I could. But when I made it back to base and checked the Megalodon saddle recipe, oh, it takes some minting paste. Oh, we have another volunteer. Volunteer for death. Anyway, this might take a minute. Okay, I can craft it now. Oh, yeah, I guess I'm not making that saddle for Terabyte. I had the Megalodon saddle though, and I could now explore the underwater world. Maybe I'll even find Atlantis. What is that? Shastasaurus. I also found the lizard that I failed to tame earlier right next to the surface, which I don't think is accessible. I don't know, but when I continued on, a Megalodon aggroed me right as I ran out of stamina. Dude, this guy's stamina is terrible. And to make matters worse, well, this happened. We're over here doing 360 no scoop. I tried, I really did, to get back on my Megalodon, but there were like 4 Squidward tentacles here repeatedly violating my face, and it wasn't long before I got deleted. I did not expect to participate in Squid Game when I woke up this morning. Anyways, I ran back over to find Y getting some electroshock therapy, and I bought a ticket to spectate my Megalodon's downfall. At least that's what I thought was gonna happen, but he proceeded to eviscerate both of the wild Megalodons. Dude, how are you winning this? But eventually things came to a draw as he got put in a squid-like spin cycle. Please don't hit that Shastasaurus. They were stuck on an infinite loop of Ring Around the Rosie. So I whistled passive and I was able to mount the Megalodon just in time to swim over to my stuff. Oh no, please! Somebody help! I eventually managed to grab my body, and I was like 10 seconds away from drowning. But trying to mount the Megalodon again was completely pointless, as these dudes have no cooldown to their freaky face grab abilities. This is so unfair, bro. I just kept getting passed around the entire squid team while shooting trank arrows into their tentacles, and one of them actually did get deleted. But so did I. That was one of the worst experiences of my entire life. Anyways, after sprinting back over once again, I managed to swim past the Squid War of 1812. Bro's got some aquatic thunder thighs. And I barely made it, but I made it. And after getting passed around the entire squid team yet again, we actually did it. I have 12 health. Those guys are insanely fast though, and I feel like if I see one, I'm just dead. Oh, and there's eels here too. I hate this, bro. Why am I playing an ocean map? Apparently, the squid meat is considered a delicacy here, and any mod creature from this map will treat it like kibble. Oh, nice. I also got some sea scales from Lepidote, so I guess they're not completely useless. And just like that, day 9 came to an end. On day 10, I discovered new lands. The ocean is very scary, but there were air bubbles containing new biomes and new creatures scattered all around the map. It was actually really cool. Oh no, not again! I think I just lost the Megalodon. How am I even supposed to survive that though? I thought that maybe something bigger like the Shastasaurus would be able to survive, but I also needed to make some cryopods because I can't just leave my water tame sitting there out in the open like that. So before I head back out, I think it's time to properly set up a base and get Fabricator going. It's time to grind. Ladies and gentlemen, we lit. It was now day 12, and after forcing Perry the Orphan Parasaur to carry 743 metric tons of my household possessions to my brand new penthouse, I used the popcorn method to get all of the loot inside because Perry's a little bit too large to fit. And I placed a couple storage boxes behind my smithy for some backup gear. My OCD is very happy right now. But before facing my fear of the ocean again, I wanted to make these guys a feeding trough. So I stole some metal out of my forge because feeding troughs require raw metal for some reason. I farmed some wood, and then a random oviraptor started biting my ankles. Ow, bro, what are you doing? Stop that. I don't know, buddy. I told him to stop. I named my new child Egbert because oviraptors increase egg production. But apparently, Egbert is special. He's completely incapable of walking through doorways. He wouldn't even enter his new home, and now he's just chilling in my backyard because I don't know what else to do with the guy. Alright, you can stay out there, I guess. Hopefully you don't get wrecked by a flying sociopath. Anyways, I made the feeding trough, and then I noticed. Wait, he's still alive? No, there's no way. Yeah, Megalodon just chilling over there. My unnamed Megalodon managed to survive season 2 of Squid Game. If I ever make it back over there, I'm naming him Giyun. This was huge news, but I still needed to get back over there. So after getting a trophy mount from a supply drop, this is where I'd put my boss fight trophy. If I had one. Day 12 came to an end. And on day 13, I wanted to make some cryopods before heading back out, but I don't have any polymer and I don't really feel like grinding paste right now. So instead, I grabbed some raw meat, a scuba tank, and I headed back over to the ocean. I was looking for a dolphin to passive tank, but unfortunately, it was very cold. Therefore, I perished. But when I made it back, I spotted 2 dolphins up at the top of the water border. So I scuba dove vertically, swam all the way towards the heavens, and then I used a slice of raw oviraptor to gaslight this man into being my friend. Works every time. And now that I had 2 dolphins, all that I needed was a saddle. Wow, I probably should have brought one with me the first time. So I started heading down, but then this happened. Oh no, not again. Oh, Vin Diesel might win this. Oh no, Vin Diesel, run. This is so unfair. It seems that I really do need those cryopods, and to be honest, scuba flippers would be pretty nice as well. So I guess it's time to finally make a fabricator. It's been 13 days and I've barely even entered the ocean yet. I really needed to pick up the pace if I wanted to take down all 3 bosses by day 100. And all that was left for a fabricator was some keratin to make cementing paste. So I forced Sir Gregory to go to war with Bowser, Bowser's mother, Bowser's father, and Bowser's baby cousin. Gregory is now scarred for life, but I have 99 keratin, so it was worth it. I would need a lot more than 99 to make 30 cementing paste for a fabricator though, so I decided to go ahead and use it to make a pteranodon saddle. That way I could scout around to find some more trilobites. And I won't say no to extra scuba tanks. Dude, look at my legs. Man's been hitting 12 sets of knee inverters every Thursday. Peak flexibility right there. And on day 14, I found this. Xiphactinus? Apparently it's Xiphactinus. He looks like he's seen things that no fish man should ever see. Anyways, after contemplating on taming this Shastasaurus, he is only level 15. I looted the best slingshot I've ever seen in my entire life from this supply drop. And then I found these Spherna guys. They're basically glow-in-the-dark MC hammerhead sharks. I also farmed a trilobite. Got revenge on my mortal enemy. Yeah, you better run. And after I finished executing my mass extinction event upon the species of trilobite, I think I have enough kite. In fact, I had just enough to make 38 cementing paste, and of course, a fabricator. We're moving up in the world. I had to put some hide and oil in the forge to cook up some gasoline, but once we were up and running, I was not a high enough level for scuba flippers, but at least I can make a cryopod. If I can craft poly, that is. So I decided to finally craft some flak armor because public nudity is an underwater crime. And it took a while, but I eventually found some obsidian. Correction, I found one single obsidian rock all the way up on top of this ledge. I think I can make like 1 cryopod with that. Yeah, 1 cryo. I did use a mod for these cryopods just because I didn't want to worry about the cryo fridge requirement stuff that ARK Ascended does, but they're essentially the exact same as normal cryos in ARK Evolved. Anyways, it was now day 15, and I decided to try taming a lizard man again. I don't know, but I assume that it's better than my Megalodon, so I used the Googles to find this video, shout out this guy. And apparently these guys are connoisseurs of electroshock therapy. In fact, they love it so much that they literally eat generators to tame. Yeah, I definitely would have figured that out on my own. I needed some more silica pearls for electronics though, as the video said it took 6 generators for that level 150. So I set out to farm some trilobites. But after dropping the supply drop loot off at my base, hey, don't hit him. Only I can do that. For some reason, there was yet another Oviraptor trying to slice up Terabyte into thousands of megabytes. And after I did a barrel roll directly into that man's chiseled jawline, I couldn't let this psychotic Oviraptor abuse this poor bulb dog. So I saved his life, and I took it at the same time. My bad. Anyways, I rid the world of another terrible parent, claimed her child as my own, named him Egbert Jr., and forced Egbert to raise him. And now that I could finally set back out, my quest for trilobites went pretty well. I found one nearby, looted a green ocean drop that had a bunch of, triangles inside, coral wall, and now Terabyte is over encumbered. Oh no, he's fat. But the epidemic of terrible parenting continued as Terabyte was forced to slay a mother in self-defense. I'm gonna have enough children to start my own country. Oh, I guess I can bring y'all inside too. Sweet dreams, buddy. The coral structures were, well, they were structures made from coral. I don't know why I put them here, to be honest, but maybe that can be Egbert's house. Anyways, I dropped off everything remotely heavy for Terabyte the weakling, and we spent the rest of the day circling around the bubble, extorting some pearl clutchers. As I made it back to base on day 16, there was a blue lizard volunteer outside. He was only level 15, but I have a feeling I won't be able to get a higher level right now. So I pulled together every ounce of silica pearl that I've ever collected in my entire life, and I had so many electronics that I could make one entire generator. Yeah, only one.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.
But I don't know where to find pearls outside of the trilobites, so I hope this works. Oh, that was easy. I'm on 3 times Taming, if anybody cares about that, and he only ate about 1/3 of the generator's durability. So I decided to name this electricity connoisseur Lightning McQueen. And I might even be able to find a female and get some backup eggs using the rest of this generator. But for now, I just wanted to make a saddle and go save my Megalodon. I just needed a bit more height. I had exactly 5 leftover electronics that I used to repair the generator. And I took it with me just in case I found a low-level female to do some lizard breeding. Holy abilities! You really are a lizard, Harry. The entire right side of my screen was covered in buttons that don't exist on my controller. Is that supposed to be Spanish for the A button? Oh, there we go. Lightning McQueen was kind of insane, and I'll do a quick rundown. Essentially, he can bite, he can tail whip, which had like a 5-second cooldown. He can explode. Oh, I kind of just wasted that. He also has a lunge, a toggle between energy buildup and energy consumption, a very pathetic roar, and several different ultimate abilities. Okay, this dude's insane. But that's still not all, because he can locate silica pearls. There's none around here right now. And when he enters the water, he can do these side dash barrel roll things. His swim speed is pretty nice too, giving Lightning McQueen a double meaning. But anyways, after almost dying via suffocation because I forgot my oxygen tank, and slaying an entire family of hoodlums, I began searching for a female lizard man. A lizard woman, if you will. But then, on day 17, I found something very weird. Bubblefish? Bro's built like melted ice cream. These guys are the easiest tame in this entire game. Or, well, in any game, to be honest. You literally just press Y. Ew, did he just... I feel a little uncomfortable right now. I decided to tame his gelatin brother as well and put him in a Pokeball. I don't know why I haven't seen these guys before, but there were 2 more here. Oh, they give organic polymer. There's gonna be a lot more of these DLC creatures that just start showing up that I haven't seen before. I'm not really sure why that is. But anyways, I headed back to base with my new blob-like buddies, froze to death. Egbert, you're a menace. And the blobfish only have 2 stats, health and weight. I have absolutely no idea what they do. Maybe absorb damage or something while they're on top of me? Perhaps could they prevent me from getting dismounted during Squid Game? At the time, I didn't know, but I definitely needed to test them out. So I named the red one Bob the Blob and his brethren Rob the Blob. Bob is angry. Rob is warm. I don't know which one of those is more concerning. Anyways, I left Bob to get over his angriness, and I used the organic polymer that I gathered from harvesting Bob's immediate family members. Oh, wait, I see why he's angry now. To make some more cryopods. And I then set out to find a female Lightning McQueen. Male, level 20. Female 20, there we go. And a male 40. I found a low-level female, but I needed to get her away from her lime green husband. Free electricity, step right up. You better hurry before he gets here. The female tamed in 1 bite, and I decided to let this green dude eat my electric generator as well. It only took 2 bites for this guy, but my generator got destroyed in the process. Welcome to the family, son. Back at base, I threw out the female, and I threw out Lightning McQueen. Oh, sorry about that. I named this man Lightning McGreen for, I think it's pretty obvious. And Lightning McGreen basically just stole Lightning McQueen's entire life. He also stole his wife. And 2 very electric minutes later, he stole his child as well. And now that I had a couple lizard men in the back burner, it was time. So I grabbed a few scuba tanks, encased myself in a blob named Bob. It's like impossible to play in 3rd person with this guy. Bred Lightning McGreen for 1 extra backup egg, and set sail to save my unnamed Megalodon from Squidward's tentacles. I'm not really sure what the blobs do, but they have to have a use. Maybe I'll Google it and figure it out eventually. Anyways, I arrived at the water and I found this blue drop. Ooh, cementing phase. There were also 2 giant jellos here. So I pressed Y a couple times. Ooh, they have a pack bonus. And I made a quick trip to drop off the paste and these giant pieces of Play-Doh. On day 18, I made it to Mr. Megalodon, and he seemed to have fought off all of the Squidward tentacles. All that was left was 1 little eel. But then this happened. Is that an alpha Megalodon? That took forever. Unfortunately, my Megalodon got disintegrated by an Alpha Superior, but I did manage to get my stuff back from earlier. Big profit. It was mainly just extra scuba tanks, which weighed like 45 tons. Anyways, Lightning McGreen was now very experienced, but he was also morbidly obese. So I made a quick trip back to base to drop off the extra gear, repair my tools, harvest the aftermath of Lightning McGreen and his unnamed lover, and I spent the rest of the day shoving thousands of slices of raw alpha Megalodon straight down Lightning McGreen's lizard-like esophagus. It took a while, but eventually he was back at full health. And at the start of day 19, I set back out towards the ocean, past a hash-slinging slasher that was locked inside of a square on the way. But once I made it into Squidward's hometown, it was finally time to explore this underwater world. Someone please pray to the lizard god for the squids to all go on vacation or something. As I entered the open waters, I checked my map. I really haven't seen much, and this map is actually really big. It has several artifact caves, a few boss fights, and even the city of Atlantis. I don't know where any of that is though, but I did find a statue of the lizard god holding a stick. Anyways, several mere mortals tried to challenge my authority, but after Lightning McGreen sent them to the aquatic afterlife and I ransacked 2 jaws and an entire spinal cord from their lifeless bodies, that sounded extremely morbid. I think I might need these for like a boss tribute or something though. I actually managed to survive an encounter with eels. Things were looking pretty great. I also found the dude that ate my entire raft last time I played on the island, and this weird looking circle on the floor. What kind of voodoo rituals are the Squidward tentacles doing here? I just wanted to explore and see all the different biomes and creatures, so I started heading towards the little cave looking entrance thing over here, but then this happened. Is that a Plessy? Oh no, it's season 3. No, 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 no. I repeatedly shot a horse tranquilizer into Squidward's non-existent forehead, and after getting passed around a few times, I just kept swimming upward, hoping to avoid them as much as possible while Lightning McGreen did all the heavy lifting. Lightning McGreen is going ham, bro. You're insane, dude. Lightning McGreen just took out 2 Plessies, a Megalodon, and the entire cast from Squid Game Season 3. And he only lost 1,000 health. 629 squid meat. I managed to take home someone's entire ribcage, someone else's femur. I'm gonna recreate Frankenstein in a minute here. And I realized that even though my oxygen tank was broken, I wasn't drowning. I had this air bubble effect thing on the bottom right, which I think is keeping me alive. I'm not sure if Bob's responsible for that or not. But regardless, Aqua Juztify, Lightning McGreen, and Bob the Blob lived on to see another day. I think I just discovered Atlantis. There were buildings here, Xintafis things, degenerates, and several other variations of menaces to our society. But this place looks amazing. There was a lot more depth, but I was indeed in Atlantis, and there's a ton of other biomes on this map too. I managed to find some black pearls at the bottom of the water here, and this lamppost, which looks suspiciously mineable. I knew it. Anyways, after finding a pack of ammonites, finding Bob's uncle, and witnessing, whatever that is going on over there. Okay then. I swam up, checked my map, and then I saw this. Wait, what is Livyatan? Oh, that's one of the mini bosses. The Livyatan is a tameable mini boss that I added. It costed me $5. There's also an alpha variant, which is kind of insane, and he's not tameable. I 100% am going to tame one of these guys before day 100 though, but like, I'd be scared. Upon further investigation, there were some juvenile Leviathans with him. So if something very unfortunate were to happen, disavow of course, the children would be up for adoption. I really hope I don't regret this. The Livyatan was really big, meaning if I sit in the right spot, he can't hit me. But when he does hit, oh, he hits hard. I didn't seem to be doing very much to this guy, and on top of that, well, there was an alpha megalodon and his entire squad of sociopaths trying to drown me. I don't think that I'm winning against that man, so I tried to run, but as you may have guessed, he's faster than Usain Bolt. Oh, I just saw the back of his eyeballs right there. Luckily, I managed to go under this bridge thing, and I think he's too big to fit. Loser. But that didn't stop him from spitting on me from afar. What is happening? Sonic Blast. I did get away, but that was close. However, I now had another problem. It was getting cold, and I was dying from frostbite. If I couldn't get to safety soon, I might lose everything. So I had my sights set on that air bubble, and I could use it as a place to place my sleeping bag. And once I made it inside, on life support, I placed down my memory foam mattress, stared my lizard man in his eyes, and faced the cold weather like a man. And when I regained my life, I explored the bubble a bit. There was a Xintafis dude in my backyard who I proceeded to make fun of for having gills. Couldn't be me. Wait, is he trying to flop over here and get me? Mr. Fish was flopping like a pancake. Oh my, bro, don't do that. Oh my. Mr. Fish has deceased. I almost had a heart attack right there. That was so weird. Like, what just happened, bro? Yeah, I didn't know that they could do that, but luckily I can respawn and he can't. What a loser. Anyways, it was now day 20, and after healing up via raw meat consumption, spying on a bunch of fish having a fiesta, getting assaulted by 2 Lyopleurodons that just randomly did a 360 disappear, I found a doorway into another dimension. Actually, it was just a cave, but it was a pretty cool spot for a PvP base. Maybe I'll come back later. Anyways, I was just trying to figure out how to get out of this eel-infested city, and I came across a boss fight health bar. Oh, I found a biggin'. But then I got jumped by a pack of generators. But over in the center was an Okrasaurus. I didn't see any boss terminals or a cave or anything, but up ahead, right under this jumbo-sized holographic soccer ball, and right next to Squidward's giant stepmother, there was an artifact-looking thing. It wasn't an artifact. Really? Apparently, this was the boss terminal for the 2 Atlantis bosses. The first one was Dark Boss, an evil fish that only spawns at night. And the second one was Geomar, a land boss, which means I'm gonna need an army of land creatures as well. I can't only use water creatures. I also needed to find all the artifacts, which are in various caves all around the map. Some of them are on land, some of them are in water, and some of them are even guarded by mini bosses. I definitely had a challenge ahead of me. I really wanted to see the rest of the map though before I started doing anything too serious, and I wanted to start taming and testing out some of these new fish mods that I added. So after finding my way out of Atlantis, seeing an Idestis, bro looks like he'd roast me, I headed back to base to drop off some unnecessary weight, repair my designer clothing, grab some fresh oxygen tanks, make another lizard baby, and at this point, I've barely even scratched the surface of this map. I haven't explored like anywhere, and it's already day
21.
So I decided to take some time and do an epic aquatic exploration montage. It's like that time when SpongeBob traveled to rock bottom. Oh no! Well, that went well. I didn't realize that Leviathans can hit me directly, and after fighting that other one, it wasn't looking good for Lightning McGreen. I needed to get back to my body, and I needed to get there now. But luckily, when I made it to the water, they were both still alive. However, my green lizard brethren was kicking that man's tail. 400? You get him, bro. And just like that, no way, the Leviathan was sent to the Shadow Realm by an electrical lizard named Lightning McGreen. But then, so was I. I hate eels. Anyways, I eventually got my stuff back, and even though my lizard was super low health, I can't go back to base just yet. The entire reason I was even fighting that guy in the first place was admittedly because he was only level 15, but also because he has a child. Wow, did I just say that my motive for deleting a man was because he has a child? Moving along. I need to find him. When I went below my bubble, I found this weird looking squid thing, Balusite, and I think that's different from the ones that be dismounting me every Thursday, always trying to eat my face, but I'm not taking any chances. So I continued on, and the baby Leviathan was nowhere to be found. I did find several sociopaths that wanted to murder me though, and a level 5 Leviathan, but my health is way too low for that, so I'll be back. I wanted to tame like all of these new creatures. But for now, I needed to head back, heal up, and get some tranks. But once I entered breathable air and exterminated about 37 scorpions from Ohio, I found this diadema. Yo, don't kill them. The body gave me it gave me something. Urchin quills can be fired from a harpoon gun. I have to try that. There was another sea urchin here as well, and it turns out they're a passive tame. I'm not sure what they'd be used for, and more importantly, where am I supposed to stick the food? I tried using raw meat, and then I tried using berries, but this urchin man was not amused. What would you like to eat, sir? I even tried squid meat, but he also didn't want that. What about someone's pelvis? I have one of those on the menu. Apparently, they eat kelp, and I'm not gonna question how, but I also don't believe that I have any. I tried harvesting these giant things that looked like kelp, but they just gave me fiber. What is that? Acrophyester. And this big pink thing is just stone. I decided to figure out the kelp later. I don't really know what I would even need a sea urchin for anyways. So on day 25, when I finally arrived back at base,
honey, I'm home.
I checked my inventory. I've kind of been collecting body parts like some sort of psychopath, but I didn't know what they were for at the time, so I was afraid to just drop them. I ended up making a storage box and putting them inside of Egbert's shack for safekeeping while trying to ignore the nefarious things that I'll probably do in there. And I also had a bunch of loot from the Livyatan. The description says that it can be used to make this bone saddle, the one that I don't have that requires level 99. But I got some other stuff as well, like these prime scales, some Livyatan hide, and a treasure map, which I'm pretty sure the treasure's outside of the map, but it's the thought that counts. Anyways, after extorting another lizard egg, mate faster, I explored a lot of the map during the montage, but not all of it. I didn't seem to find any of the artifact caves around the map, and I also didn't explore all of the verticality. I definitely didn't explore the land biomes. And I also found like maybe 15 to 20 of the different mod creatures that I added, but there's also like 20 more that I didn't see. But right now, I just wanted to start taming some of this new stuff, and my main objective is to get a Livyatan and maybe breed an army of whatever seems good after I try a few different things out. Oh, and also, I had to break the bad news to Rob the Blob. Hey buddy, your brother Bob, you know the Blob? He got mutilated by a whale. So now it's your turn. Anyways, it was now time to tame some Olympic swimmers, and the very first one on the list was this Adestus. He looks pretty fire, literally. But then after smiting down a pack of eels that tried to steal my life, the Adestus was gone. He got deleted by that Zifactinus dude that was flopping out of the water earlier. I feel like I pronounce that differently every time I say it. And after another attack on eel and Zifactitan, I'm down to half health. These eels are so annoying. So on day 26, I found another little bubble. Look at them out there, existing menacingly. And after exterminating the neighbors, I decided to try and tame one of these fried Okrasauruses. They look super fast, so I was a bit worried. But if Lightning McGreen can beat a Livyatan, then I should be good, right? Well, it started out okay, as I was able to just backpedal while shooting. But once I hit the ceiling, they bit my lizard tail, and then I started bleeding. I wanted to just keep shooting and knock this guy out, but my health was dropping fast. So I tried to run, but the bleeding effect slows me down, and these dudes are already faster than the speed of light as it is. The speed of okra. It wasn't looking good. I even tried to abuse the vertical swimming, and that still wasn't working. And at this point, I didn't know what to do. But then, by some miracle, they just left. Okay, bye. The fried Okrasaurus decided to start heading back over eventually, but I was already on my way to the bubble, and I made it there just in time. 900 health, man. I ended up getting stuck inside this railing thing because lizard knees don't have the ability to jump. If I press A, I explode. So I had to cryo the dude, and then walk up these stairs that are just oversized to where I can't actually walk, and I have to jump up the stairs. But back in the water, I found these Adestus beefing with a Ninja Turtle. I was gonna try and tame one, as I want to tame anything new, to be honest, but by the end of the fight, he was a bit too bloody, and he was also a bit special. Aw, he's stupid. Yeah, I figured that would happen. I'll take this guy though. But there was another one of these Adestus guys in the water, and it was time for round 2. He stopped moving. The Adestus looked like he was unconscious. Bro is locked in right now. But the game doesn't say that he is. Maybe there's a different way to tame these guys, or maybe he was just glitched. I'm really not sure. But we're done here. I'll probably just start Googling how to tame stuff from now on, because even though I usually like to figure it out on my own, and I think it makes the videos better when I do that, these are mods. And just like with this lizard man that loves to eat my electrical generators, there's no logical way to even figure that out. Hey, how's it going, dude? And speaking of Googling things, remember this stone knife, the one from like the very beginning of the video? Well, it turns out that if I bring the stone knife to the ocean, oh nice, a cage for Egbert. Hold on, let me freeze to death real quick. So what I was saying was, if I equip this knife from earlier, and I harvest any of these underwater plants, they give me seagrass? I was told it would be kelp. So I went back over to the sea urchin dude, and I tried to see if he would eat it, but I can't even place the seagrass on my hotbar. There were a few things stuck in the water wall though, including this Spherna hammerhead shark guy, and this acrophyester, whose name sounds like a material that's used to make t-shirts that cost way more than they should. But I actually googled them this time, and MC Hammerhead over here is a normal knockout tame, and the Gucci shirt with fins is a passive tame. I did need more trank arrows though, so I headed back to base, queued up enough trank arrows to knock out Mike Tyson. And then I noticed in my smithy, wait, I do have kelp. So I proceeded to head over to the diadema and shove this kelp into his, well, he ate it. And to be honest, I'm not even sure why I tamed this guy. He can't even walk, bro. Like, I can't even be mad that you won't follow me if you simply don't possess legs. Anyways, I sent this blobfish into the 4th dimension to harvest some fish meat and tame this very expensive clothing material called acrophyester. It's honestly pretty cool how Rob the Blob just lets me poke my head into the bubble and get a full 60 seconds of air whenever I want. But yeah, several Y button presses later, I now own a Gucci t-shirt. And over nearby, there were like 4 of these MC Hammerhead dudes all trying to become amphibious. Why are they like stuck in the wall like that? So I snuck up behind and decided to go for the level 70. But then when they all aggroed on me, I had flashbacks of the fried Ochrosauruses from earlier. Oh, this could be bad. Luckily, after attacking one time, they all went crying to their MC Hammer mothers, and I was able to get enough shots off. How much torpor do you have? Until he fell asleep. Completely voluntarily, of course. I delicately placed some raw land meat and some raw fish meat into that man's hammer-shaped mouth because I wasn't sure which one he preferred. And after watching an unconscious shark fella laying upside down in the ocean eat breakfast from afar, he was eventually tamed. And back at base, I figured out the real use for Vlad the Impaler here. Apparently, he passively produces spikes that I can fire from harpoon guns, and there's some of this orange stuff in his inventory as well that's allegedly used in recipes. Not gonna lie, buddy, I'm not eating that. Apparently, in my engrams, the Spherna saddle actually can be used as a smithy, and he also has 2 seats to bring a friend. I wish I had friends. And for the acrophyester Gucci saddle, I'm really not sure why, but there's 3 different ones here. The top ones are free, but the bottom one doesn't require paste, so I just used my 15 engram points to get that one. I also found a saddle for Marty in this supply drop. But it was now day 29, and I really wasn't expecting much from either one of these guys, to be honest, because the lizard was much harder to tame and the saddle requires a higher level. But right off the bat, the stat scaling looks amazing on this guy. He gets very high health per level, which allows me to pump up the melee a lot more if I actually level him up. But the real test is using his abilities against a living enemy. So I decided to test him out by exterminating Bob the Blob's extended family, God rest his soul. And the dude was doing almost 200 damage, barely leveled. This guy might be better than Lightning McGreen. It's most likely that it's just because he was a higher level on the tame, but he also has this ping ability like Parasaurs to search around for enemies. But unfortunately, I can't equip my crossbow while riding him. And I also can't swim backwards like the lizard can, which makes fighting things a pain when they do this. Get off my butt, dude. But I will say he has such little delay between attacks that he probably does 3 to 4 times the DPS of Lightning McGreen. I'm impressed. But MC Hammer, on the other hand, well, he is worse in just about every conceivable aspect. He's probably gonna be imprisoned in that Pokeball for the rest of his pathetic life. Anyways, I wanted to find some of the artifact caves and see what I'd need to do to actually get the artifacts. But first, I wanted to get myself a Livyatan. So I grabbed every single lizard man egg that I've collected from Lightning McGreen's occasional conjugal visits back to base, farmed a bit of stone, made some torches, and now we wait. Lightning McGreen was now a father of 12. Please don't fact check me on that, I didn't actually count the eggs. And with 12 lizard children comes 12 times the lizard responsibility. Oh no, I don't have any meat for these guys. So Lightning McGreen headed to the grocery store to buy some baby. Dinner time. So on day 30, after feeding my lizard children, I logged off to eat dinner. But when I came back the next day, oh, they're starving! My lizard children are starving! The trough was too far away, and I accidentally became the worst parent of all time. And I was left with no other option. I had to commit the felony of whistling all. And now everything is extremely OCD unfriendly. And Terrence over there is flying around like he actually has freedom or something. But luckily, they're all inside the range of the trough now. No more deceased lizard children, at least not yet.
What do you mean by that?
If you understand breeding on ARK, you know exactly what I mean by that. Anyways, I accidentally yeeted Rob the Blob onto the roof of my house, and I proceeded to spend like 5 minutes rebuilding our society after the great whistle incident of day 30. At least this guy didn't go anywhere. But I imprinted all of the survivors. There's only 5 left? And while I was waiting on them to finish becoming full-grown lizardmen, I decided to farm them some saddles, because saddles are super important to have extra armor and keep them alive. I just needed metal, hide, and fiber. So after a whole lot of smacks, grabbing the best and brightest among our new lizard generation, I shall call you Larry the Lizard. A whole lot of self-defense. A relatively large amount of slicing George Bushes. And now I have hide, fiber, and some random guy's forearm. I should bring this to the Lost and Found. I used my entire investment portfolio to craft 5 lizard saddles and 5 cryopods. But only 2 of the lizards had the good health stat. And 600 health is not gonna cut it. So I named the 2 good ones Soldier and Warrior, because they're about to go to war with the whale. And with the help of Larry, Lightning McGreen, Lightning McQueen, and my Gucci shirt, of course, this should be pretty overkill. So I spent the rest of the day making sure my lizard army ate their daily rations of 500 pounds of raw blobfish. Cover your ears, Rob. And after they were all healed up, I put them inside of a prehistoric, yet futuristic Pokeball. And I was about to die from the cold, so I decided to do something despicable so I could respawn full health. Apparently that wasn't enough though, as my stomach would need some more convincing. My health was dropping fast, but then this happened. What? Fatal error. Bro, ARK's code just saved my life. Unfortunately, when I loaded back in, I had to force feed the lizards and heal them all up again. But I won't make you guys watch that, because it was now day 32. Did you just steal my narcotics? Bro, he hit like 23 of them things and didn't even flinch. Oh no! Yeah, I just threw Larry out with cryo sickness. I forgot that I was playing in PvP mode, and even though it was pretty easy to save this man from these 2 underwater heathens, he was still unconscious. That is so annoying. I put the game back in PvE mode so this wouldn't happen again, but that didn't change the fact that Larry the Lizard is out cold on the ocean floor right now. I was gonna go ahead and scout for a Livyatan while I was waiting on him to get his full 8 hours of beauty sleep, but then I kinda had a bad feeling, so I turned back around. And sure enough, we have ourselves another degenerate. It looked like the eels spawned literally on top of him, so I'm kind of scared to go anywhere now. But he was taking forever, and I didn't want to just waste like a whole day and a half, so I threw out Lightning McQueen on neutral, and hopefully he can protect the guy. As I set out to look for a Livyatan, I decided to go underneath the spawn bubble, because I did find one there last time. But instead, I was assaulted by a squadron of obtuse anglers. Why are there so many? But I eventually uninvented the light bulb and then realized that this little room is actually breathable. Okay, this is a pretty cool base location. It even has an underwater driveway. Go away, bro. What I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by electricity is that it even has an underwater driveway covered in Bob the Blob's high school friend group, some giant tuna fish, and even some seahorses. Oh, and there's also some majestic statues of these random dudes carrying giant cardboard boxes. Yes, we have custom-made shrines of Amazon factory workers. I tried to tame one of the giant cans of tuna, but apparently they eat ammonite bile. Why? So I just continued toward the giant glowing red ribcage, and there were ammonites here among the thousands of seahorse and blobfish, but there was also a balusite. It basically just gives pearls like a trilobite. I then decided to delete an ammonite to tame the tuna, but I completely forgot what happens when you attack an ammonite. Oh my, I got swarmed by 57 peasants. Oh, I forgot that it gave you that rage effect. Apparently, it was everyone team up and attempt murder on Juztify day, and I ended up accidentally killing the tuna. Why are they all frozen like that? That might be the creepiest sight in all of Atlantis. But after the rage effect ran out, I continued on into someone's ribcage and found more of Bob's long-lost frenemies. I also found an underwater plant with a pool noodle for a tongue. So I decided to try and tame one of these seahorses, who are supposed to be knockout tames, and I was a bit worried about them all committing gang violence against me at the same time, but for some reason, even the dude that I was repeatedly lodging arrows into his eyeball just sat there and took it like a man. Or like a horse, I guess. Look at bro's teeth. I'm not really sure what was going on, like why they weren't moving and why he was still alive. I don't know. But what I do know is that I just wasted 50 trank arrows. How are you still conscious? How are you even alive? I mean, if you're gonna be insubordinate and churlish, then I cannot allow you to live any longer.
You done messed up, AA.
These dudes are surprisingly tanky, but I won't be taming one today. I did manage to find some tuna fish though, and after using a bile that was donated from a very generous ammonite, I named my new giant tuna Magikarp. I then proceeded to adopt Magikarp's brother and force him to digest this dolphin. He wasn't very good. Anyways, I've wasted enough time wailing around here, and I decided to head back to Larry and Lightning McQueen and finally find a Livyatan. But then, out of nowhere, a level 150 Alpha Ronald Megalodon showed up. And with my trusty Gucci shirt by my side, I was feeling pretty fearless that day. We're fighting this guy. It took a while. Very riveting gameplay. But after a 470 set jaw workout, my Acrofiester just soloed a 150 Alpha Megalodon. Let's go, man. I got an entire 22 levels from that, which I used to pump his health to 15k since it goes up by so much per level, and the rest went into melee. I then made my way back to pick up my lizard children from school. Grabbed a few pearls while I was down here, and headed back to heal up before the Livyatan fight in the morning. I somehow managed to like stick my head inside the air bubble so I can still breathe without wasting an oxygen mask, but Gucci shirt can also breathe in the water. Anyways, I held this position to just heal up, and that took the rest of the day. And on day 34, after unloading some weight and putting half of someone's leg and their entire jawbone into my mortar and pestle for recreational purposes, I grabbed another empty cryopod, took my trusty steed named Larry back into the ocean, and while I'm searching for a Livyatan here, let me tell you guys about what just happened to me this morning. I logged on to Steam and I was trying to play some ARK, but then I noticed I have a 387 gigabyte update for ARK Ascended. I have an entire 1 terabyte NVMe, and the only thing installed on it is ARK Evolved, which is 420 gigabytes, and ARK Ascended, which is like 250. And this 387 gigabyte update needed free space in addition to the game already being installed. So long story short, I had to uninstall all of the DLC from ARK Evolved just to update ARK Ascended. Wildcard, why? Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. Anyways, we eventually found a level 45 Livyatan. So I threw out my Gucci shirt, a lizard named Lightning McGreen, soldier, and warrior. I launched a trank arrow straight through the riptide. Here he comes, boys. he just got evaporated. The Livyatan was down. Very easily, actually. But this poor orphan child was unclaimable. It was saying that the server owner needs to allow access, and I quickly realized what was going on. I could just go into the server settings and enable claiming baby Livyatans, but these creatures are so powerful that the mod developer would consider claiming babies to be way too easy. And I guess that makes sense. So I decided to not just change the settings, and instead I left him as a homeless orphan. Bye, have a nice life. I then Googled how to actually tame these guys. Step 1 was head back to base. Well, I was going to, but then I found this. Oh, I'm like above Atlantis. Hello, sir. There were also a ton of creatures here that I haven't seen anywhere else. Also, there was a giant gremlin looking thing next to a waterfall based, but I couldn't let myself get distracted right now, and I decided to come back later because right now I was still set on taming a Livyatan, and step 1 was to head back to base. And at my penthouse, I decided to make another smithy because I have literally no space, and I raided Egbert's savings account for the rest of the Livyatan bones that I got earlier, which set me up for step 2. Checking my engrams. There were a ton of saddles for creatures that I haven't even seen yet. Helicoprion saddle. Little ratfish treats. But I was here for all the stuff at level 98. The Livyatan default saddle, the Livyatan crafting station, a drying rack, a bone saddle, and more importantly, this Livyatan communication pod. The rest of the stuff can't actually be unlocked until I defeat an alpha Livyatan, which I need to summon by crafting this Livyatan horn thing. But that's like a boss fight, and I'm definitely not ready for that yet. Alpha Mosa teeth. 72 so tentacles. There was also a Shastasaurus submarine saddle and an alpha submarine. Para spawnar consumo dentro de agua utiliza gasolina como combustible. Muy bueno. Anyways, the Livyatan crafting station was actually pretty cheap. I just needed paste and polymer. And I needed to craft a crafting station in order to make this communication pad, the key to taming these guys. 50 electronics. And right now, that was my priority. So it was time to grind. Cementing paste is absolutely terrible to grind in this game, and beavers are extinct on this map, but luckily we have Rick Roll here to do the heavy lifting. Anyways, the Livyatan crafting bench for some reason only has a ramshackle engram for the communication pad, meaning it's twice as expensive as I thought. Stupid inflation. So I shut down the shop, grabbed some metal to queue up some electronics, queued up some more cementing paste, and while I was searching for more blobfish, I found this Bothrioplepis. I'm gonna tame you. I have no idea what this guy is good for, and I did Google it, but first I farmed the reincarnation of Bob's grandmother for some organic polymer, headed back to my humble abode, finally crafted some scuba flippers, and this is where I did the Googling. Bothrioplepis are harmless fish that swim around lazily until provoked, at which point they will attempt to swim away. Wow, how fascinating. Is that it? Oh, here we go. Bothrioplepis passively produce clay in their inventory. Wow, that's almost worse than not doing anything at all. I now had everything for the communication pad, but I was still 8 electronics short. I needed some silica pearls. So I took my buddy Larry out for a swim, found this proto sea turtle dude, different from the meta chelon that I saw earlier, I think. And I completely forgot, but lizards have a pearl finder ability, and it works insanely well. Oh, nice. There were also these hydra dudes that were built like a giraffe, but they were far enough away for me to loot some buried treasure without having to worry too much. On day 38, I got a bit distracted discovering new lands and new creatures. One of which was this Tylosaurus, who was over here doing backflips in the middle of a 1v1. But after after witnessing a Metachelon get inducted into Squid Game, oh poor guy, I returned to my mega mansion, crafted some electronics, and made the communication pad. And I also realized how incredibly expensive the Livyatan saddle is. Bro, that's insane. But there was one other option, because there's a sub-menu inside this crafting station where you can assemble all of the bone and siege saddles. And for the bone saddle, I already had the adult Livyatan bones. I just needed a baby Livyatan skull, saddle straps, hide pads, and a net. I guess I shouldn't have let that orphan live. Oh no, if somebody clips that, I'm gonna get canceled. Anyways, I went ahead and made a hide drying rack so I could make some dried Livyatan hide for some of those other parts. But I was still missing the most important part, which is, well, an actual Livyatan. I can't just ride the saddle myself. Well, I guess I could. Just use it as a chair in my living room or something. It was now time for the tame. So I grabbed my scuba gear, crafted some more cryopods, scooped up my blob-like servant, you're coming with me, and set out on Larry the Lobster. I mean lizard. So at the beginning of day 39, I was searching around Atlantis for a Livyatan. I think I probably deleted all of the ones that were here, but I was looking along the walls and I saw this statue looking thing with a little ravine underneath. And down inside was a little circle entrance. Oh, what do we have in here? Of course, it's eels. After removing the eels from the premises, I eviscerated a family of trilobites for fun, and I slowly entered what seemed to be a cave. I really don't like how I can't see what's in front of me. I eventually came across this Edestus, who was absolutely shocked at my presence. Bro, why does your mouth look like that? These pelagic Edestus were level 300, and the Dunkleo was level 400. What does pelagic mean? Something that is living in the ocean. Oh, cool. So basically the exact same as a regular Edestus. I don't know if it's possible to tame cave creatures in this map, but I kind of wanted to try because they would be super OP. But I also realized what was actually in here. Oh, those are the ones I saw under the map before. I'm a bit scared right now. I continued on slowly until I reached the cavern. What is that? Oh, he's a mini boss. So me and Larry hightailed it out of there, and luckily this giant Magmadon got stuck inside the little doorway. Ha, he's too fat. I don't know what the thing is because he doesn't even have a name, but I'm gonna call him a Magmadon because, I mean, look at that man. Anyways, I have no idea how strong this guy was, so before grabbing my entire lizard army, I wanted to test his strength. Please don't one-shot me. Oh, nope. This guy hits really hard, and there's two of them, but maybe they die fast, so I did my little explosion thing just to see how much health he had. Oh my, this man was godlike. I'm pretty sure there's an artifact back there, but I don't think my lizards can handle that. So I decided to just come back later when I have a Livyatan, or maybe 25. And speaking of a Livyatan, I found one, but he was only level 10. So I decided to harvest his son for a baby Livyatan skull. Big profit. And I also found this fire Edestus. I was gonna tame him, but then I realized he was already deceased. Thermite. I haven't seen that yet. Anyways, it was now day 40, and I left Atlantis to drop off some stuff at base, get a new scuba tank, and headed south to search in the central cavern area by the big ribcage thing, because I think I saw one over there before. There were some fried Okrasauruses feasting upon the frozen seahorse display from earlier, but over on the other side, right next to this Tuso, I found one. Level 5? Really, dude? Oh, there's another. 45. It still wasn't great, but that'll do for now. But then I got assaulted by Moza Lisa. But since I've been consistently leveling my melee, Larry is kind of a menace now. Just got melted. For some reason, the communication pad wouldn't work, and I think the game didn't register that I actually purchased the mod or something like that, but eventually I got it fixed. And I was able to equip my iPhone 16 Pro Max Ultra Whale. I won't make you watch this, but I went through the training mode to actually understand what was going on here, and it took me a little longer than I'm willing to admit. But once I retained the knowledge inside my brain, I swam back to the Livyatan, and we were gonna gonna do this for real this time. But then he still wanted to murder me. Bro, I have the song buff. Why is he attacking? The communication pad was supposed to make him friendly, and I eventually got away and I had it aimed perfectly at him, but nothing was happening. And then after getting a little too close, well, dude, calm down. What? I assumed that it was glitched because he had already aggroed on me. But after forcing Lightning McGreen to come out of retirement and repairing my oxygen tank, it was now day 41. And after arriving back in the bubble and trying to get my stuff back, move your head, Larry. I pulled out the communication pad, and this time, it actually linked to the Livyatan. Okay, there we go. Basically, you tame these guys by playing mini-games on the Nintendo 64, and it's probably a good thing that I have him stuck in this bubble so I can just focus on the games. And the first one up was this reaction timing thing, and it was actually pretty easy. The next game, however, was this voltage thing, and I had my game paused, and it didn't actually pause somehow. So the timer was like really running out and I don't even know what to do. I figure it out later, but as of now, I overvolted, and Mr. Livyatan became very angry. The next game was Morph Match, and this is the only one that I actually did the training for because I kind of skipped the rest. But basically, you have to cycle through all these different shapes and then move around in real time as like an X and Y axis kind of thing to make them match up to the current shape on screen. It's super unforgiving though, and you have to line it up perfectly, and it moves pretty fast. Basically, it's not really hard. Dang, bro, this is hard. It's just annoying. But after some triangle-related difficulties, it was eventually a success. The trust bar on Mr. Livyatan was going up super slow though, and since I lost half of the timer while my game was paused somehow, I think that this is impossible. So I reset the tame by putting my giant Samsung Galaxy iPad RTX 4090 Pro into my back pocket and pulling it back out. The device rebooted, and now we are restarting the Hunger Games. I'm locked in this time. And just like that, Mr. Livyatan trusted me, and that was probably the most complicated taming I've ever seen. It was kind of fun though. But it wasn't over just yet, because now a giant Tuso is about to spawn. That's right, Mr. Squidward. And I have to help Mr. Livyatan here defeat his mortal enemy. The issue was, though, Mr. Livyatan is kind of stuck inside the rock, and because of that, Mr. Squidward literally spawned inside of the rock. This is gonna be interesting. No, help! Hi! No, put me down! Ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Oh, he has a kill animation. That's kind of cool. Since I was unable to adopt his children, I just casually executed them right in front of the dude. And then, after seeing the stats, I named him Lenny. Lenny the Livyatan. Alright, Lenny, you're going in a Pokeball. Outside of my bubble, I popped Lenny back out of the Pokeball just to see the level scaling, and 1K per level. And he's only level 60. I still needed a saddle though, so I headed back. Whoa, Larry's throwing it back. I now had 8 Tuso tentacles to spawn the Alpha Livyatan boss. Only 140 more to go. I also had like 800 keratin for pace now, which is pretty great because beavers don't exist in this world. But more importantly, it's time to make a bone saddle for Lenny. I just needed these 3 parts. And the hide pads were easy, but the saddle straps and the fishing net needed some more fiber. Well, that was easy. Nice. Apparently, you can upgrade saddle quality by combining multiple saddles, giving a pretty good incentive to hunt wild Leviathans over and over. But it was now day 43, and after repairing all of my broken oxygen tanks, I headed into the ocean, put Larry in a cryo chamber, and summoned Lenny the Menace. I look so tiny up here. Despite me being 100 times their size, and I really shouldn't be surprised at this, but it didn't stop the eels from aggroing me. But I managed to pump Lenny's health to 30k, and then everything from this point on is gonna go into melee, kind of how I do boss rexes. And Lenny, just like the Nothosaurus, Mr. Lizard, had a ton of abilities. I tested out his melee, his bash, and his tail slap on some megalodons and some lizardmen. And all of those were pretty basic. There were several more abilities, but I didn't know what buttons to press to actually do them. All of the different combinations of using LB and all of the different buttons and everything like that, it didn't do anything different. But when I pressed X on my keyboard, well, Lenny spoke of his frustration. Yeah, I feel you, Lenny. The eels are deranged. I kept spamming buttons, and I realized that pressing A, which I just don't think to do when I'm swimming, well, the game said that I needed to be closer to the surface. So, I complied. I guess I was too close to the surface. So, after resurrecting, I grabbed Lightning McGreen, made it back over, mounted Lenny. Oh no! I am a highly intelligent species. So I put on my Gucci shirt, and we're all just gonna collectively agree to pretend like I didn't just forget an oxygen tank and die again. Yeah, I didn't die. It was now day 44, and I still didn't know how to do a sonic blast or a charge ramp. I do know how to do the water jump, but in my case, it's more of a water spontaneous death. Anyways, I figured out that if I press RB and left trigger together, I do the sonic blast. Basically, it launches eels into the Shadow Realm, everybody's favorite pastime. And it took a while, but eventually, I also figured out that if I'm sprinting full speed, and then I hold control and press Q, while still moving at full speed, it will then begin the charge ram attack. And if I continue to move at full speed, while I wait on the bar to fill up all the way, and then I sprint straight into this eel dude, 3,500. I think it's probably the most useful just for moving quickly around the map, because that setup to hit things, yeah, I'm not doing all that. I had to head back to base to re-gear and craft a bunch more trank arrows, just because I can. Look at my mid-back, look at my traps. Bro trains until failure every single hour. I was almost ready to start taking on the caves and preparing for some boss fights, but I also didn't know where most of the caves were. So I decided to explore, yet again, the 7 Seas on Larry the Lizard. There's so much verticality to the map that I missed before, and it didn't take long before I found a brand new bubble. Oh, this is aberration. I wasted the rest of day 44 trekking through the mushroom forest, and after Larry cannonballed back into the water on day 45, I continued soul searching past this giant metal skeleton and all the way above the swamp area. I didn't come here much back before during the exploration montage because this is where all of the little squids that assault my face like to spawn. But this time around, I found 2 giant statues surrounding this Colosseum-like ravine. I had to investigate. It kind of reminded me of the underground city on Brittle Hollow from the game Outer Wilds. And if you've never played Outer Wilds, it's literally one of the greatest games ever made, so you should go play it like right now. Well, after you watch my video, of course. Only if you like games that like really make you think though. Anyways, at the bottom of the Colosseum area, there was this little hole thing. And I wouldn't usually expect anything to be in here because it just looks like nothing. But on this map, it's suspicious. And Larry was able to wiggle his way all the way down, and yeah, this is a cave. As per usual inside caves, I got jumped by several species of level 450 sociopaths. But after sending them to the aquatic afterlife, I decided to continue on. It definitely had a swamp cave kind of appearance, which is definitely concerning as the swamp is terrible in every map, including underwater ones apparently. I despise the bog. And after I fought another Zincaphis guy, the bleed effect already had me down to half health. Also, I kind of had my recording paused for a minute, but basically I force fed my health back up, and then I immediately found a squadron of those scary fish dudes, and now I'm at 2k again. Force feeding takes forever. But 10 minutes later, I was at full health. So I used this opportunity to pub stomp some shocking civilians, whiplash some sea scorpions, and came across this giant doorway. Apparently the cave continues on land, which really made me appreciate all of Larry's all-terrain capabilities. So on day 46, I belly flopped on some Slither.io players, got spit on by a gentleman with way too many legs. I wish I would have brought more lizards in here because then I wouldn't have had to force feed between every section. I could have just like rotated out the roster. But the cave eventually opened up, and after a few more snakes and a giant centipede that aggroed the entire mosquito population of the Pacific Ocean, oh, he disintegrated my pants. I found this cave drop with the Mastercraft shield blueprint. I don't really care about that, but more importantly, I found the artifact of the Skylord. Yes. I'm not really sure if I'm gonna need more than one of the same artifact since there's a few different bosses, but you can only carry one at a time anyways unless you have an otter, so I'll just come back later if needed, I guess. And on the way back to base, I found another one of these guys. What is that? Oh, a Tylosaurus. The Tylosaurus mod was made by the same guy that did these Nothosaurus lizards and the Livyatan, so I do want to get one of those at some point because all of his mods have like a ton of cool abilities, but right now I'm about to perish. So I headed home and put the artifact into my Livyatan station for safekeeping, repaired my armor that a centipede spit on, grabbed my Gucci shirt for backup, and I now had 2 goals. The first was to tame a high-level lizard man for breeding an army since they can go on land and in the water, and the second was to locate the rest of the caves and the artifacts. So on day 47, I used Terabyte to spy on some lizards. 40, 80, 15, 40, 120. The 120 was perfect, but I wanted to see if there was anything better. What is going on here? 10, 90, 80. I didn't find much else, but since Rob got deleted when I went above the sky barrier on Lenny, I decided to tame Bob's uncle. I then headed back to base to use all of the metal I had left on a generator, flew in business class over to Mr. Lizard where I cranked that thing up, and I watched as that man discovered electricity.
It's over 9,000!
These tames are actually insanely easy, well, if you have the resources, that is. But Mr. Lizard here had 570 melee. I just tamed Muhammad Ali. This was a huge upgrade over Larry, as he had about 350. Health was about the same though. Unfortunately, all the good ones were male, so I had to breed with the bad stat ones over here to get a decent breeding pair. Wait a minute, how did you get up there? Anyways, the lizards did some, activities. I assumed that Egbert would love to watch this, so I whistled him over. The actual reason was because oviraptors can pick up eggs. See, he just chalked that seagull's child right there. Egbert is based. I wasn't 100% sure if it worked with fertilized eggs because I haven't really used them much before, so I sat and waited on the cooldown for them to do some more activities, and yeah, Egbert grabbed that thing before the male breeder was even finished, so I decided to leave them on breeding for a while, and on day 48, I was about to go on a quick metal run because I'm completely empty. But then, wait, I should just tame an Anki. So I took Terabyte to the north. Hey, how's it going, buddy? I saw some Ankies over here earlier, and sure enough, there was a whole clan of them right next to this Joshua tree. I don't know who Joshua is, but if he has a whole tree named after him, he must be more important than me. Anyways, I lodged some drugs into his skull. Almost drugged a lizard man by accident. While he was in his involuntary slumber, I returned to Terabyte, who was being mauled by a lightsaber tooth. But after feeding an Anki some berries while he was totally not unconscious, I had successfully gaslit another prehistoric being into being my friend. We shall call you Frankie the Anki. And back at base, Egbert had 3 entire lizard eggs, while his savage of a cousin was physically assaulting a parasaur in the background. Well, that's new. I was so low on metal that I couldn't even make a saddle for Frankie, but we can make it work. What are y'all doing over there? Bro is mating and playing Mortal Kombat at the same time. I advise you not to try that if you have a girlfriend. Anyway, everybody was like scattered everywhere now, so I had to get them all back into position. Dude, he just stole my cryopod. Somehow, Egbert had traveled halfway across the universe. Get back here, young man. But he was pretty loaded on lizard eggs. And with the price per a dozen in this economy, that's pretty impressive. I decided to stop mating for now, and hopefully we'll get a few perfect females from these eggs. And at this point in the video, it's about to be time for something we all know. It's time for the breeding montage. What? I can't believe you've done this. That might be the worst supply drop I've ever seen. So that took about 4 days, but I now had 20 imprinted lizards, all with the good stats, and most of them have a 3.0 KD ratio. I just wanted them all to get a few levels all into health, because these guys needed to start healing up now, because it takes a really long time, and I'll probably level their melee more later before I do any boss fights, but for now, that's good enough. Anyways, I grabbed Bob's uncle and saddled back up on Larry, because we have some artifacts to find. I just realized that Bob's uncle being a higher level, I have almost 10 entire minutes of air from his blobs. I didn't really know where to go, and as I played this map right when it came out, there was nothing online that was showing any of the cave locations. So I just kind of explored near things that looked cool, like statues, ruins, giant rib cages, covering all the bases. And on day 54, after getting my face grabbed by a hooligan, thoroughly searching the red zone, fighting Mr. Squidward to death, and passing through this giant skeleton pirate realm, I found this very suspicious looking opening. There were giant statues and weird trees, and as I got deeper, there were eels that were way too high of a level. Okay, this is definitely an artifact cave. And then past this ominous metal doorway, it opened up. I could kind of avoid things by staying high, like physically high, like I don't do drugs. But then this happened. Is that an alpha? It was super sketchy, but instead of turning around and running to my mother, I decided to run past the dude. And on the other side of the cavern, it looked like I might have just cornered myself. Oh no. But luckily, there were some little openings in these rocks. Oh, that was close. That allowed me to heal up a bit by consuming some eel meat and continue on. The next cavern opened up a lot more, and it was pretty creepy to be honest. Like, this place looked like a dystopian wasteland underwater. I found a supply drop with a smoke grenade, a poison grenade, and an extinguisher grenade, which I don't think I've ever heard of before. But I was mainly just trying my best to avoid the level 450 Zefactinus dudes. I think I've pronounced that wrong like 8 times now. But even though I could avoid them, the eels aggroed me halfway across the universe. I didn't see any artifacts here though, but I did try mining this yellow fire rock looking thing. Oh, I didn't realize I was crypto mining. The orange ones just gave stone, but I definitely was not expecting the yellow ones to give electronics, and I'm not gonna pass up some free graphics cards. Anyways, I spent the rest of the day circling around this prison cell, inspecting every single one of those sewage pipes that are sticking out of the walls, looking behind all of the metal things, and pretty much everywhere else to see if there was any other pathway or an artifact that spawned somewhere. But I can confidently say there wasn't anything. I even went back and searched inside of the Alpha Moses bedroom a bit more, but there just wasn't anything here at all. So on day 55, I chopped down a cactus inside a bubble, and then I found the serpent from the Chamber of Secrets. He immediately started trying to repeatedly gas me, but unfortunately for that man, he has passed his last gas. I was initially thinking that my blob was protecting me from the poison, but when the other snakes started assaulting me, I'm about to die. I almost had a heart attack, but I managed to escape. I haven't seen any caves on land yet, but if I had to guess, I'd say there definitely are some. Probably not in the circle bubbles though, more like the huge biome ones like the snow one earlier that I should probably explore a bit more. Anyways, I went into a hole in the ceiling and I found a brand new fish. No, kill it. So this guy's bag contained a bunch of weed, flavo weed. There was one of the boss terminals here as well, so I decided to take a closer look at these bosses. They both require the exact same 5 artifacts, meaning that I will need to go back and get the Skylord one again and find the other 4 caves. Wait, does that say Golmar? I could have sworn that said Geomar last time. There's also the Alpha Livyatan and some mini bosses scattered around like the Magmadons from earlier, so I definitely have my work cut out for me. I also don't know if my lizards are strong enough or not, so it's definitely a race against the clock before day 100. But anyways, I searched around the lily pad swamp for a while and I didn't really find much except for this. What is that, dude?
Hey, yo, what the?
After gouging something from my memory, I made my way through the redwoods, and there was a pretty obvious entrance to, well, something that looks beehive related. And inside, yeah, these dudes are definitely cave level. This cave was basically just a small little cavern for beehives, unfortunately, but I also contracted hypothermia. Oh no. So I took Larry to the nearest bubble, placed down my king-size mattress, and then I committed a war crime. Alright, I'm healthy again. I then headed from the redwoods into the blue zone, and here there was a level 5 alpha mosasaur. I remembered that I needed his teeth for the alpha Livyatan spawn, and I thought a level 5 would be pretty easy. And I mean, he was easy enough, but after a 5-minute fight, I won, but barely. On day 56, I spyglassed a miscreant, and I headed back to my bubble abode to heal up and re-gear. I wasted so much time right there, and I didn't find a single artifact, which is super unfortunate. But back at base, my army of lizard children was about halfway healed up, and Egbert over here has been pretty diligent in his egg stealing capabilities. Keep up the good work, gentlemen. So after leveling the health of my lizard dominion, I ended off the day by taking Larry out for a meat run. I needed some more food so I could provide for my reptilian family, but also I needed to heal up Larry, who is still severely injured from his adventures. And on day 57, after making it back to base, I cooked up some meat for dinner, choked some water from the lake in my backyard, and forced Larry to eat all of the leftovers. I also filled up the troughs, and since my lizards are still healing up, I decided to spend even more time trying to locate these caves. And as I made my way into the water, I checked my map. I've explored pretty much everywhere except for that little corner in the top left, and it's super cold over there, but I mean, there's probably a cave. And even though it looks like the entire map has been uncovered, keep in mind that humans as a species have only explored 5% of the ocean. And this map is kind of like that. It's extremely vertical, and a lot of areas there's like 3 to 4 levels, and in most of those I've only explored one of them. I'm like a 2-dimensional creature living in a 3-dimensional world. So I decided that a good place to start would be the overworld above Atlantis. I didn't get to explore this place earlier, and it's massive. Unfortunately, I didn't really find much here, but I did find a very chill guy. Chill guy? Level 1010? Bro is chill and powerful. I don't know how the mod creators, who definitely didn't plan on me combining all these mods together, expect me to drag a fish all the way up here to tame this chillaxing man. So maybe I'll come back later. Anyways, the rest of this planet didn't contain any obvious caves, just giant goblin statues, so I left. And on day 58, I was searching around the top left snow area. The main reason I haven't explored this yet is, well, it's because I literally can't. There's just a wall there. I tried going above it, I tried going below it, and I tried going around it, but it's just a giant wall with some clams on it. I think that maybe inside the snow biome there could be a way, but I don't really want to die today, so I'll have to come back with fur armor. I did manage to find a tiny little hole inside here though, and it led to an air bubble. And I thought for sure that that meant I was the second coming of Christopher Columbus rediscovering America, but honestly, this bubble was probably the lamest area that I've found yet. Dude, this place sucks. There's nothing here. I was still outside of the wall, and just from a different angle. So back inside the water, after a whole lot of swimming around with no success, I found a red supply drop on the ocean floor that contains some companion armor. I've never seen this before, and I'm not really sure what they consider a companion to be, but I also found this super secret hidden cave beneath this giant orange crystal area. Oh, is this a cave? I thought that I had finally found one, but it was basically, well, it was nothing. There wasn't a single object inside of here. I've been bamboozled. So I went a little further north, and by this giant metal spinal cord and under some rocks, I found some element ore. Oh, cool. But then I also found a gang of violent squid-like felons. Oh no, help! Larry was over here breakdancing in circles, but luckily I didn't get deleted. Kinda wish I did though, because I don't know where the caves are, bro. I was about to give up at this point and wait for someone to just post a video on YouTube showing the caves. But after slaying a Livyatan and his youngling for fun, I found this little opening at the bottom of a trench. What level are you guys? Oh, nice, this is a cave. I finally found one, and for the first time in my life, I was actually happy to be assaulted from all angles by a flock of escaped convicts. This cave looked pretty interesting, kind of giving Blue Zone Aberration vibes, but underwater. The level 390 Megalodon with 87,945 health wasn't very interesting though. Dude, will you die already? I then came across a land area inside of the cave. Wait, what? I'm still swimming. I don't know why I went through a bubble doorway, but I'm still in the water, but this area really did make me think I found an artifact cave. But after grabbing the supply drop with some GOAT tier Air Jordans, I realized it was a dead end. Oh, seriously? So I reluctantly headed out to search for hopefully another area in this cave, but this Zephacinus had other plans. This dude was hitting harder than Jake Paul, which isn't that bad to be honest, but he has way too much health. Bro, why are you so healthy? And by the time I forced his perishability, I was on the brink of being removed from life. I explored around a little bit more, finding little side and top areas, but it didn't really lead anywhere. And long story short, I healed up a bit to not get sniped by a bystander, snuck past a Zen family, and I left with no artifact.
Unfortunately for you, however, you are
artifactless. So I kept on swimming, and after trying to harvest this yellow glowstone from the swamp, spoiler alert, you cannot, I headed to the terminal area, and yet again, they were streaming Squid Game. Oh no, not season 4. Normally this wouldn't be a problem, as Larry would just incapacitate the entire cast. But since there is no cooldown to their face grabbing abilities, when an alpha megalodon showed up, well, I got deleted. Everything in the vanilla game, like even micro raptors, which I despise with all of my soul, even they have a cooldown before they can dismount you again. I don't know why anybody in their right, you have to be a masochist to intentionally install this mod into your world. Fair enough. Anyways, on my way back over there, something happened. Please die. After this video, I'm avoiding the swamp like the plague. Literally. I eventually reach my destination, and Larry is sparring with the entire mafia right now, but I managed to whistle passive to get him to stop attacking them, kite him away, and he's really close to dying. I was super relieved that he actually survived. I'm gonna be honest, I was not expecting that. But there was still one more thing. A damsel in distress. I had to save Bob's uncle. Almost got consumed in the process. But now I was facing the predicament of not having my body or any cryopods to put this extra lizard in. I wanted to go grab it, but these Megalodon mustard. I was trying to say Megalodon and degenerate at the same time. Anyway, they wouldn't leave me alone, so I kited the dudes super far away, and then I made a run for it. I had plenty of space between them to get my stuff back, but I wasn't paying attention to this guy. No! Oh, the lizards were still on passive, and if they didn't fight back, this could be the end. I was basically out of lizard saddles at this point as well, and I had to swipe one from Lightning McGreen just to use on this no-name lizard that recently became a man. But then right outside of the bubble, I reunited with a long-lost friend. Bob the Blob? I thought you were inside a whale's colon right now, buddy. Stay here, though. I have to go save your uncle. When I made it back over, after exterminating yet another family lineage of eels, Bob's uncle got eaten by a prehistoric fish. We're not telling Bob about this. I was spamming whistles like Flow Rider, and my lizard clan turned Mr. Tylosaurus into a fish sandwich. So I grabbed my stuff back, again, had the fam on follow, and headed back to my humble bubble abode. Scooped up Bob on the way. Your uncle won an all-expenses trip to Blobtown, buddy. And back at my water-resistant residence, I leveled up these 2 lucky lizards. One of them had 14 levels, and the other one had 24 from the Squid Game Alpha Megalodon shenanigans. And this guy, still not having a name, now has 15,000 health and like 800 melee. I might have to start using him over Larry. So after unloading some gear and repairing some armor, I named this super overpowered lizard man Leroy. I wanted to craft some fur armor so Leroy doesn't freeze his Jenkins off, but after making a hat and some gloves, I was out of metal. So I walked over past a descendant of Egbert to my forge, where I lugged 400 entire metal ingots back to my base, crafted the rest of the fur set. I look like the king of Ice Age. And fun fact, the scuba pants actually protect you from the cold way better than anything else in the entire game, like clothing wise. But they have 0 armor, so the prehistoric psychopaths of the world can just slice straight through your pants. And maybe you're into that, you know, fair enough, but I wanted the protection because I keep getting dismounted a lot. Anyways, I use the power of video editing so you don't have to watch Leroy eat 800,000 calories to heal up. And on day 61, we're finding that snow cave. On the way there, I explored pretty thoroughly, trying to find anything interesting that I could come across. And below this rock thing, there was a supply drop and like no textures on any part of the map down here. Oh wow, thank you for this amazing Carno saddle that I'll never use. But nearby, there was also this giant bubble doorway. I didn't get my hopes up this time, and I'm glad that I didn't. Because even though this place looks amazing for a base location, and I actually would love to see a PvP server running this map, there wasn't anything useful here. In the back, there was a little ramp up to the water again, where you can like swim above the bubble, but it just connected back to the trench leading to the open waters. That's kind of disappointing. So I headed out and made my way to the home of the Blue Yeti. And as day 61 came to an end, I witnessed 2 alpha cardinals literally falling from the heavens. Oh, hello, sirs. Luckily, Leroy's trusty tailspin knocked one of them into the abyss, as I don't think I can fight 2 of these guys at the same time, but I definitely wasn't gonna pass up the opportunity to get some levels for this man. I was far from the level cap on Leroy. He knocked down about 5k of my health, and I'm really glad I wasn't using Larry here. And by the way, the reason that I never have that explosion ability ready is because every time I click LBA to eat my cooked meat, I also set off the ability. Yeah, I have this disorder where I spontaneously combust during dinner time. I should probably put the meat in a different slot, but oh well. As I scaled this giant snow platform and witnessed some Managarmers beefing with Manny from Ice Age, I should tame one of those guys. I quickly realized that this snow bubble is by far the biggest one in the game, and I might need a flyer for this. Oh! Yo, whoever put this here is evil, bro. Leroy almost just went skydiving without a parachute, but luckily he's too big for the mod developer's troll hole. Did I just say troll hole? Alright, that's the official name. If you ever see this troll hole now, that's what it's called. But as I continued on, I made it all the way to the top, where the red trees were glowing in the distance, and the map opened up to this giant pirate ship looking thing. I think I just figured out how to get to the top left part of the map. As I approached this bubble doorway, there was a ramp to my left, but I just decided to go through. I was now back outside the bubble, but I was still above the water. There was an abandoned ski resort here, and I explored around it, but I didn't really find much, so I continued on. And the entire time, I just felt this weird sense of impending doom. It felt like something bad was about to happen. Oh, there's a Giga. Oh, there's another Giga. Holy, get away from me. I managed to avoid that, and as I was getting closer to the wall that blocked off the water on the map, I eventually reached the end. And there was nothing here. Just a giant statue of Mr. Squidward's left arm. I guess this place is just for finding gigas? So I made my way back to the main bubble part of the snow, and it took like an hour, but after finding a couple caves that didn't really lead anywhere, yeah, there's nothing here, I came to the conclusion that there are no artifact caves in the snow, meaning they're all probably underwater. So I headed back into the ocean, and since I was already on the bad side of town, I decided to head back towards the swamp cave. It's crazy how this one is so obvious, like it's inside of a hole that's inside of a coliseum that's surrounded by giant statues that are literally pointing at the hole. So I don't know if I'm just stupid or something, but the other artifacts, they must not be this obvious, right? But I do know that these defectiveness dudes are always level 450, and I absolutely despise them. Anyways, I ran past the entire swamp cartel and I made it to the land part. Go ahead, come get me. I decided to preemptively remove my clothing because there were some multi-legged specimens in here foaming at the mouth to remove it themselves. And then my game crashed. What? So I loaded back in, grabbed Bob, mounted Leroy while wearing only my underwear, and ran past every single living organism on the way to the artifact, where I found 2 giant desert centipedes just waiting to disintegrate my pants. Not today, buddy. Ooh, a Mastercraft Giga Saddle. That'll look real nice sitting in my storage box until day 100. I now had my second artifact of the Skylord, which I would need if I wanted to take down both of the summonal bosses on the terminal. And speaking of both bosses, I probably want to get an otter at some point to avoid doing the rest of the caves all a second time. But for now, I just need to find the rest of the caves. So I googled it again, and while there were a couple videos doing playthroughs and showcases of the map, which kind of spoiled another boss that I won't mention just yet, none of them showed any of the cave locations, at least not explicitly, and I don't really have time to just watch everybody's really long playthroughs, so I just had to bite the bullet and do it myself. And it took a very long time, and I also may have went into a private server in creative mode to find the last 2 caves, but I did manage to find them all. But now, on day 73, after repairing a boatload of scuba tanks, no pun intended, I had a bunch of cave entrances that I found marked on my map, all of which are on the lower half of the map for some reason, and yeah, I guess I was just looking in the wrong spot before. Basically, I went into each just a little bit to make sure that it looked promising, but I wanted to wait until I found them all before actually going through them. So I believe that these are all artifact caves, but I'm not 100% sure. Also, the one that I marked Moza Cave was that same one from earlier when I saw the Alpha Moza, but then I didn't see anything in the back. It was just empty. I saw someone's video and there's something else in there, but that's all I'm gonna say for now. Anyways, while I was gone, my hostage here has been adding to his excellent collection. Dang, bro! So I decided to grant him his freedom. It's a shame that he's too encumbered to actually use it. Anyways, it was time to start collecting these artifacts. So after taking Leroy to the water realm, I put on my scuba tank. Swag. The first cave that I wanted to take on was in Atlantis itself. I actually brought my iPad along, just in case I found a high-level Livyatan while I was there to tame. But after fighting yet another classroom full of eels, let me just show you guys something. So, do you see this little tiny hole on the side of the rock that's just in a random location at Atlantis, not by any statues, no buildings, no ruins, nothing like that? Well, if I butter Leroy up and squeeze his lizardness inside, head down to this rock hallway, boom. artifact cave. Like, these entrances are near impossible to find naturally. But anyways, I made it inside and deleted a pelagic Destus. And I was trying to stay high enough to avoid the Revolutionary War. And at the top end over here, there was a surface area. And no, I'm not talking about geometry. I discovered land. Is that a bat getting waterboarded? As I orbited to see into the surface, it didn't look too bad, but I will be removing my clothes for the bros with excessive amounts of legs. Please don't clip that out of context. All right, cave dwellers, I would like to introduce Leroy Jenkins. At the top of these stairs here, which, I don't know exactly who built these. There's a little ledge up top, and I can't actually get to it. I think I should start bringing Terabyte in a Pokeball from now on, just in case there's more areas like this. So for now, I went the only direction that gravity would allow, and I came across some Titanabo. Some dead Titanabos. And some Arthros. Sorry guys, my armor is no longer with us. I found an Ascendant Rhino saddle inside this supply drop, and that was everything that was down here, but there was a pathway on the side. And after making my way, things started to ramp up, pun intended. And now that I just pulverized an entire society, the artifact of the Destroyer was secured. And I now needed 3 more artifacts in order to start the boss fight. Although I would need to get this one again for the second boss, which reminded me that I should probably tame an otter to be able to grab more than 1 artifact at a time. And for that reason, I was heading to the area above Atlantis, the air bubble where I saw a chill guy earlier. I don't know if there's any otters here, but when I surface, there's a whole lot of chill guys. And I don't know if they can hold artifacts like otters can, but I haven't seen any otters, so I decided to go for it. I needed to feed them a dead fish. So I swam back down into the depths, right past a herd of Gucci shirts, and I was mainly looking for a coelacanth, but I didn't find much until I came across this Bothrioplepis. They were pretty small, and luckily I was able to drag the body. I had to swim all the way on foot, but eventually I made it back to this very chill gentleman, and I offered him my, dead fish. He ate the whole thing in one bite. But since this man is level 800, it's gonna take more than one. So I repeated the process with this small tuna. But this man was not interested. Don't like tuna, all right. So I headed back down, and this time I found a Lepidote. And this time, he broke the simulation. I tried a couple more times, and basically, these guys aren't tameable. Like, every time I get to the taming food, my game will crash. So I went into rage mode and forced Leroy to assault one of the chillest of all guys. But then... oh my Jenkins. Leroy, run! I managed to get away, and I've officially learned my lesson of why you shouldn't mess with the chill guy. I don't know why these dudes are all like level 1000, but I think they're replacing the otter spawns, so I can't tame an otter. Oh, there's a chill baby. But if I try to slay his mother, I would simply perish. I looked around for the rest of day 74, but yeah, I didn't find any normal otters. So on day 75, after heading back to base, healing Leroy's trauma with copious amounts of raw Lepidote, I leveled the boss lizards one more time. We're gonna start doing the melee when we power level later. And I grabbed the most leveled up one from that squid incident earlier. This lizard man's name was Leon. I was gonna use Leon for the next cave, as Leroy still has some trauma from his encounter with a very, very unchill man. So I made my way through the waters of Atlantis until I reached the red zone. And down here, just under this gentleman's ribcage, there's a cave. But this one, I guess I probably should have explored it a bit more before, because there's definitely not any artifacts in here. Basically, it was completely empty, with a couple large openings and an air bubble at the very back. This would be an S tier PvP based location, but it's awful if you're looking for artifacts. So I made my way to the east, and I found this sea turtle in the redwood. I figured I might as well just tame the dude, so I grabbed some berries and realized he's a carnivore. Do sea turtles eat meat in real life? If they do, I had no idea. And I named him Crush, like from Nemo. He was very angry, but I'll test him out later. Because on day 76, after making my way through the purple pirate paradise, I arrived at this cave on the very far right of my map. Please die. But upon further investigation, this cave is a bit more obvious, and I don't know how I missed this one, to be honest. Leon was definitely weaker than Leroy, but he'll become a combat veteran just like his lizard brethren in no time. At least he would have, but I messed up. I messed up bad. As you can see, I was kind of running past these Zefactinus dudes, and I thought I could just outrun them. But eventually, I got hit, and they caught up. No way! Leon, run! I don't know how, but Leon is still alive, albeit barely. But he's currently bleeding out. And these Zefactinus flavored sociopaths are on my lizard tail. They're low-key faster than me, and I didn't know what to do. Luckily, my favorite creature, this eel, shocked and slowed them down a little bit. I may have misjudged you, young man. And this bought me just enough time to make it out of the cave in one piece. Go away, 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 go away. But then this happened. Bro, regen your stamina. What are you doing? Why? What? Do you want to die? No, help! I got Zefactinated. And Leon was now with the big lizard in the sky. I'm gonna miss you, buddy. I had to avenge my lizard man, so I grabbed some oxygen, hopped on another lizard man named Leroy Jenkins. He's fully healed now. And swam back over, where I witnessed something traumatizing. No, Bob! You can mess with Leon. You can even mess with me. But if you mess with Bob the Blob, well, that's a line no fish should ever cross. I had to revoice that one because I butchered it so bad. You can mess with me, but if I mess with a blob, wait. Did you see what they did to him? Some people, they just don't have a heart. No offense. The entrance to the cave was filled with level 400 Zefactinus that I kited there on Leon before, and even with Leroy doing insane damage, you survived that? I was already below half health, and force feeding using fish meat takes like twice as long as regular meat, and it was getting really annoying. And the mantas, dunkleos, and pretty much everything else in here don't ever really aggro on me, and I'm not even bothered by the eels and piranhas at this point since I just one-shot them. But megalodons, and more importantly those Zefactinus, are absolute menaces to Atlantean society. I despise them. And as I continued through the cave, I realized, wait, are those skulls? Every single one of those was a dude's face. There were also some anglers and destis in here, which weren't really much of an issue, but this cave just kept dragging on and on. And then it got even worse. Whoa, 600? Why? I tried to snipe one and take them on one at a time, but that definitely didn't work. Oh, there's another one. I managed to get them all into pretty close proximity, and then I let out a massive fart. That took out most of them, and 1v1ing the level 600 was pretty difficult, but when they're alone, they don't do as much damage because they don't have a pack bonus anymore, and it's now mainly the bleed effect. I'm at half health now, though. I spent the beginning of day 77 forcing Leroy to consume a few million grams of protein, which got me to about 11k health before I ran out of meat and needed a refill. And about 10 seconds later, well, I think you can guess what happened.
Another one.
I was expecting to get hurt pretty bad, but I still thought that I could at least win. I couldn't have been more wrong. I tried my best to run away, and the barrel roll attack allowed me to actually create some pretty solid distance. But the Zefactinus were still faster than me, and when I ran out of stamina, well, this time I put Leroy in my cryopod, so at least he would survive. Get in the pod, bro. Well, I tried to. Dude, put him in the cryo. Oh my. And just like that, Leroy and Leon were reunited in their afterlife, and I was just about ready to join them at this point. This cave was absolutely insane, and I didn't really know what to do. Leroy had 2,000 melee, and I still couldn't beat the almighty Zefactinus. So this time, I decided to bring in some backup. So I scooped up the 3 finest of lizard gentlemen, and I named them Leroy Jr. and Leon Jr. in honor of some war heroes, and I named the other one Zefactinus Hater, because that was the only thing that my brain could think about at the moment. My squadron of lizardmen took out the alleged perpetrators, and now it was time for us to enter the cave. I despise this place. Oh no, are they respawning? Things were going downhill fast, as I accidentally aggroed a bunch of random pedestrians. Oh no, I'm stuck. But luckily, I managed to make it out of there in one lizard-shaped piece. And on day 78, it was time to face my fears. There were a ton of floating bags everywhere in here from all the casualties, and this is a fact in this hater is starting to do some pretty solid damage with his melee levels at this point. But I was still taking it very slow, because for some reason, everything in this map is above level 400, and I just kept topping off my health every time it dropped down even a little bit. I eventually came across a ominous glowing circle. What is that? Oh, hi, Mr. Jelly. I finally saw an end to the madness. I've never been so happy to see Titanobos in my life. There was no way that the land could be as bad as the water, right? But then again, maybe that's why there were so many skeletons hanging from the ceiling. It's probably voluntary. There were a whole lot of critters in here. And this place was huge. Like, I got lost multiple times. But eventually, after exploring on top of these ramps and all of the corridors, I came to a dead end. Is there no artifact in here? But then I remembered that ledge from the Atlantis cave from earlier, and I decided to look up. Wait a minute. Artifact of the Cunning. More like artifact of the Zofactinus. Thank you for your service. On the way back to base, there was a really cool looking Livyatan, but he was only level 5. So I headed back home, threw out Crush, froze to death. And after repairing my armor, I realized that I can play in third person again. Oh yeah, I don't have a giant blob blocking my screen anymore. After what just happened, I needed to strengthen my lizard arm. I have about 17 imprinted ones left, and most of them don't have any saddles. So I withdrew some resources from my Cretaceous 1 savings account, crafted some saddles for armor, and I counted how many eggs are being held hostage by Egbert. 98 eggs. What a legend. So I did some quick math, and each one of you lizards is getting 6 eggs. All of my lizards were now at 15k health, and somewhere between 800 and 1200 melee depending on how old they were. And if I throw in Lenny the Livyatan and a Gucci shirt, I now have 19 tames that are ready for the Revolutionary War. I did need 2 more saddles though, so I took Perry out for a quick metal run. I'm just now remembering that I had an Anki as I'm watching this back. Yeah, I don't know what I was doing. I was now ready to take on a mini-boss, probably those 2 Magmadon dudes in Atlantis, but the lizards still had a bit of healing to do from their sparring match with toddlers. So after meal prepping for the week, I gave cryo sickness to Leroy. My bad. And we set out. Wait, did he just drive by eat Bob's nephew? Anyways, I set out for the next artifact cave, the one on the very far left side of the map. It was inside the Crystal Ravine area, which I had searched before, but I never went all the way to the bottom, straight down into this hole, where I immediately found a level 450 eel. Get stream sniped. And of course, the fan favorite. Why is he level 450, dude? I'm already on life support and I haven't even entered the cave yet. So I reluctantly spent 10 minutes holding down the right trigger on my controller while watching a lizard man train for an eating competition. And on day 82, after exterminating the Piran Mafia, I came across an eel. Surprise, surprise. And yet another pack of fish sticks. I wanted to take them out as fast as possible, so I summoned Leon, he who should not be named because I didn't give him one, and a Gucci shirt. Come and get me. There were more Zofactinus than I thought, but my aquatic platoon made them become one with the ocean. It just got melted. I was really liking this new cave meta. And as we continued on, eviscerating useless life forms along the way, the cave eventually became too narrow to fit everyone through. So I had to put them inside my Pokeballs. Why does saying Pokeballs as a plural sound so wrong? And up ahead was the air bubble. Can't wait to get spit on by a centipede. There were some Olympic long jumpers in here, and way too many swashbucklers. Did they just spawn in? Basically, this one section messed me up pretty bad. But luckily, I became a grenade. You're still alive? And despite there being an abnormal amount of level 450 spawns on this map, I made it out with half health. But this clearly wasn't gonna work. So I summoned the lizard squad and everything was going pretty well. But when the cave opened up, well, this happened. Oh, I'm gonna die. Is that a rock elemental? There were rubble golems in here, little baby rock ellies. Bro looks like he just retained the knowledge of the universe. And almost everything else is an Arthro. So I cryoed my lizard son so he wouldn't disintegrate, and I came to a dead end. The only way from here was up. I had to leave my gear here on Leon because Terabyte has a max bench press so low that he has to use a plastic bar to get the weight up. That was oddly specific. Anyways, there was nothing up here, but I did find the actual way to go. It opened up into a massive cave paradise. Well, paradise if you're an Arthro anyway. And there were so many of those guys, like, let's just say I'm very glad that I flew here and I didn't try to fight everything. No shot I would have made it through here without healing every 5 seconds. This place was massive and it was almost impossible to find what I was looking for. But after a whole lot of soul searching, I eventually came across the artifact of the shadows. Oh, chill, dude. I almost froze my traps off, but after putting a warm winter jacket on, we headed out. And on day 83, we made it home. Leroy was finally awake from his cryo slumber, and we now had 4 out of 5 of the artifacts to summon the boss. This poor little guy was deceased in my backyard. Good times. But the Lizard Mafia was all healed up as well, and the only one that wasn't close to full health was the leader of the Zafactinus hate group. So I crafted some more cryopods, farmed some more organic polymer, made some more cryopods, invoked the wrath of the lizard gods on a toddler. Jeez, what did he do to you guys? And now, it was time. So with 14 lizards inside my pocket, I force-fed this Zafactinus hater until he had high cholesterol. And on day 84, I got all of my gear ready and I set out for the Magmadon cave. You probably have an idea of what's about to happen based off the fact that I'm bringing my entire boss army. And I might have even over-prepared a bit, but with how strong the caves Zafactinus are, I'm not sure if I'm even ready for this. And if I die in here, I'm gonna lose everything. Wait, why are there 3 of them now? No, not the Gucci shirt. And just like that, Sharko was down. Yeah, Sharko is Mr. Magmadon's scientific name, I guess. My Gucci shirt and one of my lizard bros are in the afterlife, and Lenny the Livyatan didn't really help much either. But we won, and that's all that really matters, even though it didn't really give me anything. There wasn't anything else in this cave except for a supply drop with a very overpowered Moses saddle. You guys can stop assaulting him now, bro is gone. The main loot from that guy was a tech rep, a tech generator, and some vacuum compartments, which are basically just used for either bases inside our solar system or underwater bases. And that could potentially be useful, you know, considering the entire map is covered in H2O. I also got 120 element and 3 Sharko heads. And yeah, I don't know why there were 3 of them spawned in, but that could have been really bad. Anyways, my lizard army was pretty low on health after that. But it seems that this gentleman here got the final hit. So I gave him the title of Sharko Slayer. And on day 85, after making it back to base, I summoned my reptilians. Okay, y'all are not on passive. I also mounted Sharko's severed head to my living room wall. Really opens up the place. And while the rest of the lizardmen were becoming healthy, I decided to force feed Leroy and go for the final artifact. That Sharko boss wasn't too bad, and I don't think I would have lost any tames at all if there was only one of the Sharkos. But spoiler alert, he is by far the easiest boss on this map, and things are about to get a lot more difficult. Anyways, I arrived at the blue zone, and there was an alpha Moza out for a long walk on the water. But I was more focused on this cave. You can't see it just yet, but if I go slightly lower, a little bit lower, boom, artifact cave. It's kind of ridiculous how hard these things are to spot. But when I made it inside, this one was pretty wide and it was really tall. So I was able to hug the ceiling and avoid all of the Zefakt and his sociopaths for the most part. There were still a couple, shocking areas, but overall, everything went pretty smooth. That was until it opened up at the bottom. Oh, this place is insane. It took a lot longer than I'm willing to admit because everything looks the same around here, but I eventually found this doorway. And inside, there weren't even any fellas with excessive amounts of legs. There actually wasn't anything. Just a supply drop with this Fabby pistol, and the main event, the artifact of the lost. Nice. I now had all 5 artifacts, so I decided to celebrate by unloading my Christmas present on a Zefactinus for my own entertainment. Okay, so guys, I'm gonna be honest here. I can't find the exit. It's now day 86, and I feel like I've circled this place 20 times, maybe more. And let's just say, well, when I made it home, day 86 was already about to end. Yeah, I spent 20 minutes swimming in circles, but we're not gonna talk about that. And I was now 100% ready to take on the bosses of Atlantis. I'm a bit scared. The lizard battalion wasn't fully healed yet though, so I decided to head out and see if I could find a better Livyatan to tame and take with me. Oh, I didn't know the Civil War was scheduled for today. But over here, under the main area, all of the Leviathans were level 5? They were pretty bad. But during the search, I remembered something that I saw earlier in the snow. I was about to tame something that would speed up my progress significantly. Let's see if you guys can guess what it is. Is it A, a Giga from the top? Is it B, a Snow Owl? Or is it C, Sid from Ice Age? If you said Sid from Ice Age, you would be correct. Correctly diagnosed as an idiot. I was here for a Snow Owl because they can heal your tames, kind of like a doctor. And it wasn't long before I found some. My lizard tried to off the dude in his sleep, but after adopting this random direwolf baby, Dr. Phil was tamed. He's gonna heal our generation of reptilians, so I went bungee jumping without the bungee. Swam back to my penthouse, introduced Dr. Phil to his new practice, and crafted a Snow Owl saddle. The ARK veterans watching this video right now probably already know this, but for the rest of you, Snow Owls have 3 main abilities. First of all, they can glide kind of like griffins to make them fast scouts for PvP. They also have a heat vision mode, which is, it's not really that useful, but it's kind of cool. And most importantly, which is what people use these guys for, is they can turn your tames into icicles. And while the tame is frozen, it rapidly gets healed. Hence the name Dr. Phil, which is probably not the best name because he's hardly a doctor. Anyways, I've seen someone actually raise a wyvern on official 1x breeding rates just by healing him instead of feeding him wyvern milk. It's that overpowered. But Snow Owls do need a lot of stamina to be effective, so I used Leroy's children as XP potions, and I froze a lizard. That clip was sped up a lot, but it takes a while and I have to keep regaining stamina. But after creating the circle of lizards and witnessing Dr. Phil smite down a heathen, I created some sort of lizard ice cult, and it took the entire rest of day 88. But after a whole lot of cold therapy from Dr. Phil, the lizard army was ready. I had exactly 17 unwilling participants, but you can bring up to 20 into a boss fight. So I decided to craft 3 more lizard saddles and take the female breeders along too. But once I made it over to the terminal in Atlantis, I realized something. Wait, these are both land bosses? The Golmar boss and this other dark boss, dude, were both land bosses. I thought one was in the water, but even though Golmar requires level 70, meaning he's probably much easier than Darth Vader, he was still not in the water, and lizards are much stronger when they're in the water. I didn't want to fail, so I decided that I was going to try and tame a Yudi, because Yudis can use their roar buff to make my Zafactin and his hate club do more damage and receive less damage. But first, before I could tame one, I needed to make a trap. So on day 90, I crafted a Yudi trap, and there's a few different locations I can find these dudes, but my first stop was gonna be the snow, where I got physically assaulted by a teleporting, ice-shooting wolfman, but I didn't find any Yudis. So I headed back over to the land above Atlantis, and after searching far and wide, level 25, level 10, I found a level 120, and I had to tame this guy. So I assembled my Yudi trap, and then I proceeded to not even use it. The Yudi was over here committing gang violence with some mammoths, and then he just randomly got stuck on a wall. I assumed that I would have enough time, so I started shooting. But his roar was so intimidating that even my Zafactinus hater began to fear for his life. I think I had the guy about halfway knocked out, and he was already terrorizing another Mamothian family over there. So I lodged a couple narcotic-laced arrows into his frontal lobe. But then something bad happened. I was hungry, and that's where I messed up. What? Oh no! I kind of forgot that my lizard man transforms into an atomic nuke whenever I eat my lunch. It's on the same keybind. And the level 120 Yudi was now atomized. Whoops. It took most of day 91 to find another half-decent Yudi, and he was still below level 100. Level 90, I guess. But this time, after setting up the trap, well, my lizard got scared again. So I just dismounted him and let him run away into the sunset. And I just started launching arrows into this man. I did almost get murdered by the locals, and so did he, but luckily he consumed a body, which healed him up. I kind of forgot how bad the pathfinding was on this game though, and it's basically impossible to use this trap. The dinosaurs know that they're going to be trapped and they won't even enter it. So I decided to think inside the box, and I kind of used it as a barrier to try and not get eaten. The Yudi was so close though, so close that he started running. But after chasing him to the ends of the earth and leading him back to the trap, he was getting super bloody. And then this happened. Oh, seriously? I'm taking your brain. My flabber was absolutely gasted. That is so stupid. And I found Zafactinus hater about 2 miles away taking a bath with this Alpha Carno. And just like that, it was already day 92. I've wasted way too much time here, and I just want to make sure that I actually get to the boss fight. So I decided to leave for now. And back at my humble abode, well, one of Leroy's children was so sad that I didn't adopt him, that he was literally drowning himself in my drinking water. You're still not getting adopted. I don't have time for that, because I think I can take on the level 70 requirement boss. And once I arrived in Atlantis, after looting this companion picnic set from a red drop. Leroy, are you trying to invite me on a picnic? It was time. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty worried about this. There is no gamma, beta, alpha difficulty choices. It's just the boss, Golmar. It could be really easy, like Sharko, or, well, I could lose my entire army, all my artifacts, and all of this would have been for nothing. Let's hope that doesn't happen. And just like that, everything was gone. I underestimated Mr. Golmar. He is insanely strong, probably equivalent to an alpha fight. I could easily do that with a full Rex army and a Yudi and good saddles, but I didn't have time for that. And this entire time, I thought I was preparing for a water fight. This is why you read the fine print, ladies and gentlemen. And this trend continued as I went back into the Mosa Cave to see what everybody was talking about on Reddit, and I got absolutely wrecked by a water monster. He's like full auto machine gunning me for 1500. We knocked a decent chunk out of his health, but his damage was too much. This map has some seriously difficult bosses, and we're not even gonna speak about Darth Vader. I feel kinda stupid right now for not taming any Rexes, but it wasn't over just yet. Out of all the bosses, I only beat Sharko, and I pretty much got bullied by the entire tri-state area, but I wasn't ready to quit. I had a backup save file. And it was time to grind the very long scavenger hunt list of tributes for the Alpha Livyatan. Alpha lead Sichthies. Bro just got deleted. Squidward Tentacles. Disintegrated. And his brother. Alpha Mosalisa. Hydrogenated. Alpha Squillium. Abolished from life. Livyatan Hide, dehydrated, another Squid Game alpha contender. Emancipated from life. Mr. Squid Game's equally squid-like brethren. Spaghettified. So it was now day 99. And essentially, well, it's impossible to find 31 Alpha Tusos. Like, I literally need to spend 10 hours searching. I just spent 3 going back and forth from Atlantis to the Purple Pirate Cove. So I spawned in 20 of the eyes because I don't have time for that. And I also spawned in some Bassy Blubber because they don't spawn on this map. But I had everything else. And the last ingredient was dried Livyatan hide, which I'd been cooking up here in my tanning bed. I mean, tanning rack. Why did I say tanning bed? Anyways, I now had everything that I needed inside the crafting station to make an Alpha Livyatan summoner horn. But if it was day 100, this would be a little bit more epic. So I just kind of AFK'd in my front lawn. And as day 99 was coming to an end, I went out to the open ocean, found a suitable spot, arranged my lizardmen into a cult-like circle, and it was time for one last fight. Really, bro? You had to ruin the moment like that? He just spawned in the entire navy and then one-shot everything for 20k. Okay, so the Livyatan was definitely more difficult than anything I've ever seen. And after that horrendous run, I just needed to defeat something, okay? Oh my, dude, this loot is insane. The Alpha Livyatan drops like the best loot I've ever seen. I also did the same thing for Mr. Water Monster, and I got revenge on Mr. Goldmar. Are you done? Get ready. Okay, so Atlantis is a pretty hard map. If you guys want to try out this map, I would highly recommend it. It's $10 on the mod marketplace, and go support the creator. He did a great job. Also, the Alpha Livyatan, I don't really have much to say about that. The other bosses I should have beat, that guy, yeah, that was something different. But that mod's $5 on the marketplace, and I would also recommend it. The base creature and the boss, that's definitely something to work towards. Anyways, if you enjoyed the video, I'd really appreciate if you could leave a like, and let me know in the comments below if you prefer Ascended or Evolved. Don't forget to download Raid Shadow Legends using the link in the description below or the QR code on screen. And if you want to see me play 100 days as a dinosaur in ARK, click right here.